Gosh dang.
It's all right.
Gosh dang. All right. I need to look at the camera, not look at the TV. I wonder if that's going to be a problem. Okay.
Pulling it.
I'm pulling it in. Hello, and welcome to another meeting of the Geek Cabal, Cabal Whisperings, episode number 36. And with May the 4th right around the corner, we decided to have a Star Wars special. Maybe the special edition, as Owen says. For me, I prefer Revenge of the 5th, but, you know, for you May the 4th fans out there, whichever you prefer. Anyways, my name is Jim.
I'm Bobbie.
I'm Owen.
And we welcome you back. So, we'll start off with our channel updates. Do we have anything on the agenda? Anything to talk about?
We do, but it sounded like you had a few things you want to go ahead and throw out there first, unless I was mistaken.
For which one?
Channel update. Thought that's where you were going just a second ago, but if not, I'll go ahead and...
Well, I mean, I have some channel updates. I mean, did some more thrifting. Today, we had this month is especially popular with our townwide yard sales, like each one of the local towns around. Townwide yard sales. So I do have a few new items that I picked up, and maybe at some point get to talk about those. Yes, like
some new additions to the VHS collection over here.
Yeah, so I'm never going to watch them ever on VHS, but got copy Mallrats and TMNT 2.
This is the special edition part.
Yes, the new sign. Just in case if you forget that you're watching the Geek Cabal channel, that we've got the sign to now let you know that.
That's like comic book characters, like Apocalypse. He has that giant A right there, just in case you forget that's his name.
The question is, did he have that back when he was in Egypt?
Well, no, because then his name was En Sabah Nur, and I don't think he had a giant E there. He did have a big scarab kind of looking thing there, though, so maybe, I don't know. I don't read hieroglyphics.
But anyways, besides that, I mean, just a couple things picked up, and hey, this is 3 in a row that I've been on the podcast, so hey, hopes to everything, continuing down that trajectory, but I mean, I know you guys have some channel updates with the...
So I'm going to do very briefly the real updates, and then we'll get to the more Star Warsy stuff. So, actually, there's some Star Wars updates. The first 2 batches of episodes for Andor Season 2 are out. So 1 through 3 and 4 through 6. And the way they're doing in this season, each 3 episodes is like a story arc, and they all release on the same night. So it's like watching a Star Wars movie every week, essentially, which has been awesome, by the way. And if they're going to continue to do stuff on Disney Plus and lose lots of money, this is the way they should do it, because at least it's entertaining and time efficient. But Andor's been great. I've got videos for the first 2 batches. Both sets of episodes have had controversial moments. I mentioned them in the videos, but just in case. So the first 3 episodes had an Imperial officer attempt to use the Force, so to speak, on an unwilling female participant, and got killed for his troubles, because, that's what should happen in those situations. And that's led to some interesting conversations online where people are like, we know we signed up for more adult stuff with Andor, but this might be crossing the line. And a few people like, I just like the Empire's evil, but I just don't think they'd really stand for that, which is a take for sure. But also probably accurate, but also it would still happen, because even more reputable armed forces have that problem. So, and then in the second set of episodes, we had a kissing scene between 2 women. Now, to me, I don't know why that's controversial to people, because we knew they were a couple from season 1, and while the kissing scene's longer than most of the other kissing scenes in Star Wars, it's not like we don't have other kissing scenes in Star Wars. So, yeah. And there's also an implied sex scene after that. So, this is what you get when you sign up for adult Star Wars. It's, for adults.
Well, I don't know. A Solo story kind of went down a rabbit hole that I didn't think I'd ever see Star Wars go down.
The old robosexual.
Yes.
Yeah, so all kinds of things fly in the Star Wars universe, not just spaceships. But yeah, so I don't know. Like the first one, I understand because that's like a very personal kind of evil, as opposed to like blowing up Alderaan. Because that's what people are like, oh, you're fine with mass genocide. Like, yeah, because it's cartoon level villainy. Like the others, like, no, this stuff really happens. Like, do we really, I understand people's, like, do we really need to go that far? I understand the comment. But again, it's geared towards adults. So, I mean, had this been like the Skeleton Crew, that would be a problem. Because that was clearly geared towards kids. So I don't think it's a big deal. But I did do a separate video talking about that. Talking about how, like, when you try to take realism and put it into a fictional setting that thus far hasn't gone very realistic, you run into problems like that. And I'm going to have a few more episodes because I've thought of a lot of other examples. We got a second one talking about the X-Men, how that's why people don't feel they gel with the rest of Marvel. Because, like, Iron Man's out here fighting armored villains. Spider-Man's fighting other rando villains. The X-Men are fighting people who want to kill them because of who they are. Like, that is a little different than everyone else in Marvel. So I see where it comes in. I personally think they fit just fine, but the video is about how people get to that point. And I've got another one for Star Wars that I'll talk about whenever I do the video. But so we got those. I got another BattleTech book review up. I'll probably have a short story review up because a new short story just dropped. And I got another BattleTech lore video up about the Kentares massacre, which you should definitely watch. Like the greatest war crime in BattleTech history, as near as I can tell. 52 million people killed. Like, the hard way with swords and pistols and not battle mechs. Yeah. So yeah, that's most of what we got lately. And then the other thing is, last weekend Owen and I went to go watch Revenge of the Sith for the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, I like how Owen didn't even tell me he went.
I thought he did. I thought you knew.
No, because Owen wasn't at my house that day, and Bobbie had asked about, hey, can you help me get a hold of Owen? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I never heard anything back, and Owen never even told me he went, which is fine. I mean, I told him he could go. I was okay with that, but.
So Owen, any thoughts on the movie in general? Seen it on the big screen, anything like that?
It was certainly a different experience than watching it at home.
Yeah.
Oh. Your mic's hanging off the other side there. You want to, just in case. Just in case. But anyways, keep going. I just want to make sure they can hear you.
Okay, so, I liked the movie. Seeing on the big screen allowed me to feel like I appreciated the visuals a lot more. And a lot of the CGI, I think, still holds up today.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were right there slaying the younglings?
Wow. So, Owen, have you seen any of the others on the big screen?
No.
Like none at all?
No, none of the prequels.
No, I mean just in general, like even the Disney ones.
No, I've seen Star Wars Disney movies on the big screen.
Okay, so the 5 Disney made you have seen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because I didn't realize, so I started doing math on the way out the door. I was like, wait a minute. Owen definitely hasn't seen this in the theater. He wasn't born yet when this came out. And I even asked him afterwards to make sure I was right on that, but because it was like, 20th anniversary. Owen's not 20 yet.
Yeah. Well,
Plus he would have been like 1 if he was 20, But, to Owen's point, I thought everything still held up visually. I was very quickly reminded of the very sketchy dialogue in a few parts between Anakin and Padme. Though, no, it's because I love you so much. Oh, so love has blinded you. I was like, oh my God. It's like, oh, that's right. I forgot. I thought that was all back in Attack of the Clones talking about sand, but it's not. Some of it's here too.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I mean, you can chalk up a little bit of that they're in a galaxy far, far away, so they don't know how to speak so good. But at the same time, somebody should have been like, no, let's get somebody that knows actually. We got your general gist of what you want. Let's get somebody that can actually write dialogue to.
Well, I think that's the main complaint about the prequels. Like, the story's good. Like, I know people that don't like the story. That I personally think they're wrong. The story's good. It's just that there's parts of the dialogue that I just wish there would have been someone there that George would have trusted enough that could have been like, George, let's take this one back to the drawing board. I think that person would have ultimately had to be like Steven Spielberg. I think it's probably about the only person on that level.
Well, and to that point, I think one of the other things that I think, especially with that doesn't work so well, is the jump between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith kind of makes Anakin's turn seem kind of out of left field. But when you throw the Clone Wars in there, either animated series, the Tartakovsky one, or the I don't know, whoever.
This is Dave Filoni did it. He's the one who's in charge of the other one, wasn't he?
I don't know. Whoever did the
I know
other.
he was for a lot of it.
Either one. I mean, there's a definite, glimpse of, he's going to turn. But, in the movies, there wasn't, anything like a flashback or anything would have probably helped a little bit.
It would have helped a bit. Plus, that there's knowledge from outside the movies that the people just watching the movies aren't privy to. They don't know that the Jedi basically have the authority to take Force-sensitive kids. And Anakin, being as strong as he is, like, he knows his kids are going to be Force-sensitive. That's an obvious concern on his mind. Yeah, sure, the two of them can leave, but what happens when the kids are born? Like, plus, even if the Jedi don't take them, they're going to watch him till the end of his days because of how powerful he is.
Yeah.
And, like, these are the things that are running through his head. And he could have gone to Obi-Wan, but the problem is, about a third of the way into the movie, whenever Obi-Wan's like, so we need you to spy on the Chancellor now, like, that was the exact wrong moment for that to happen. Because now all of a sudden it's like, I can't even trust Obi-Wan. Like, he's a company man. Like, I have no choice now. So, and Palpatine knew it. Like, he put him in that situation because he knew what the Jedi were going to do. So, I know the whole thing's like a Shakespearean tragedy when you really step back from it. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed seeing it again on the big screen. Maybe in 10 more years I'll break my Phantom Menace record. So, and any other thoughts on it? Anything you liked, disliked?
Well, I still think it's probably the best of the prequel trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hold that opinion. It's the one that I hold up as that I think is almost as good as the original trilogy. So.
Yeah, the dialogue was definitely rough in some places, and I think you had a couple of complaints about things just happening or characters just saying things.
I did, but I'm just trying to remember what it was.
It was whenever Mace Windu said that he just sensed the plot to destroy the
Jedi.
Jedi.
Oh, yeah. Where that just comes out of nowhere. Where they're just having their meeting, and all of a sudden Mace Windu's just like, I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi. And I'm just like, that's not something you just bring up like at the 5 o'clock meeting. Like, that's a hopefully you've mentioned, hopefully you knew that before now, and hopefully you're like, guys, we got trouble here.
Well, and I think that they all started coming to the realization real quick that he was right, because I think they were like, no, regardless if this war ends or not, like, there's going to always be something that's going to be testing them or whatever. I pretty much know that as soon as Yoda got attacked on Kashyyyk, he was just like, yeah, this is it. This is done. I'm gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the problem is they didn't realize that the Clone Wars were the trap. Like, them becoming enmeshed in the war, that was the trap. Because by doing that, they were throwing their own teachings to the wind. They were literally like clouding their own minds as to what could happen. And a war on that scale is going to fuel the dark side. And so, like, that was the trap. And they didn't realize it. Like, even at the end, they still didn't realize it. Yoda might have realized it when he was trying to tell them, when they're like, Ki-Adi Mundi over there with this whole, oh, we should go commit a coup against the Chancellor. And Mace Windu's like, well, and Yoda's like, hold up, guys, like, this is not a good idea. Whatever he's like, this will take us to a dark place. Like, yeah, of course it will. You're talking about overthrowing the leader of the Republic because you think there's a problem. Like, explain that to the Senate. Good luck.
Yep. Because there'll be about a point in time where they should have all gone into exile. And
yeah, but there were two things I noticed that I've seen people talk about, and I hadn't watched the movie since I'd seen them talk about it. One was, if you pay attention whenever Palpatine tells Anakin that he's the Sith Lord, look how he's holding his arms the whole time. They're down at his sides. He's, just in case, he's going to have to throw down with Anakin to pop his lightsaber out. And then the other is whenever they're trying to flee Grievous's ship, and the Emperor's like, leave him behind, and Anakin says he'll share our fate. They all met the same end. They all died aboard a Death Star. All three of them. They did in fact share the same fate in the end. In fact, they also all returned from the dead, just in different ways. Two became Force ghosts, and the other, somehow returned.
The dead speak.
Yeah, stupid Rise of Skywalker. Although the Emperor was the only good part of that movie. But, yeah. So,
Well,
not to jump ahead on what we're going to talk about. But yeah, I like seeing it again in the theater. I really wish that Disney would look at the current landscape, because this movie was number 2 at the box office last weekend. Okay, it made like $50 million domestically almost, and I don't remember what was number 1, but it wasn't by a whole lot.
and it was shown in limited theaters.
Limited
too.
theaters. Not even every country, like globally, it made like 75 million. This what gave it the push over 900 million at its box office, and it was only out for a week. So yeah, no, Disney needs to just like on May the 4th every year, just be like, all right, here's all 9 of the movies. Well, 6 if you don't want to embarrass yourselves, but go ahead and put all 9 out. I don't care. I mean, they've got some fans. Why not?
You're like,
Well, I should say all 11, actually, isn't it? Well, I'm not going to count the Clone Wars movie. Otherwise, it'd be 12.
The Clone Wars movie.
Yeah. Where they go to find Rhoda.
Rather,
Yeah. Who's in the Mandalorian movie, apparently.
they're bringing Rada back?
Yeah. I think that's who the Mandalorian's after. And there's a clip, he's in a gladiatorial arena, fighting. So, yeah.
Honestly, I mean, since they kind of wrote him out of the entire story, I wouldn't mind that.
Well, I tell you what, you want to see some deep lore cuts, you guys are going to be watching Andor. They've mentioned the Rakatan Empire from 25,000 years ago, the whole TIE Avenger thing. We're coming up on what's going to be the massacre on Gorman. That's from the RPG from the 80s, apparently. I mean, there's all kinds of things they keep mentioning that's all from just really, really deep lore for Star Wars. And the guy who's making it doesn't even like Star Wars. That's the thing that baffles me to no end.
well, maybe that's what. Well, I can say the problem is that most of the people that developed the Disney Star Wars didn't like Star Wars either.
Well, yeah, yes, this is true.
So did we have we went into our first topic?
No, we're still in the channel. We're talking about Revenge of the Sith channel update. I mean, we this is normal about how far we get in the channel update before we're into it, so we're cool.
Well, is Revenge of the Sith the next topic, or are we just keeping it?
Revenge.
No, that's a sub part of the channel update because we
Okay.
went to go watch it and we just wanted to.
I personally, watching Revenge of the Sith, the last thing I think I'll say is that I still think that the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is one of the best, one of top 3 in the entire series.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that the one in the Phantom Menace gets criticism for basically just being flashy with no substance, which I don't care. It looks fantastic, and John Williams was on fire on that one with Duel of the Fates.
Well, Duel of the Fates was probably the best thing out of.
But no, to your point, Owen, that to me that's if that one's not number 1, it's Luke and Vader aboard the Death Star. Not there. It's not from the technical standpoint. It's from the emotion that's playing out. But yeah, I think George Lucas was on his A game for that one in the Revenge of the Sith.
I mean, in Revenge of the Sith, you have the emotional stakes between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
You are my brother, Anakin.
Yeah, and you've got it literally playing out with an environment that's reflecting what's happening.
Now, did you happen to notice in the scene where they're fighting and they happen to switch lightsabers at one point?
No.
Yeah, there is a scene where I think Anakin's pushing down the lightsaber, and at some point it switches and they have each other's lightsabers. Just
No, but you also have
remember
the technical, with the visuals, and it's not original trilogy. No, this is choreographed.
Yeah. Well, the problem is between the two trilogies, George Lucas changed how the lightsabers worked. In the original trilogy, they're fighting as if they're heavy. Like, that's intentional. But then they're like, well, but they're really just particles of light, so they wouldn't be heavy, and that's why the prequels are the way they are. So, you know, there's not much you can do about that, unfortunately, unless you're going to go back and, like, CGI the battles in the original trilogy.
Well, and you're talking about the dialogue, and I wonder if some of the dialogue issues in the prequels was also caused by that in the original trilogy, a lot of times Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford would be like, no, George, this is terrible.
Well, that's part of it, but also if you think about it, Solo, although he was born on Corellia, and Luke, they're not in the core. They're not chilling in the core systems. They don't sound like Imperials, okay? Because the Imperials are technically speaking with the Imperial dialect. Well, the Jedi would probably have that dialect too, since they're on Coruscant. So they're going to sound a little stiffer, you know. And Vader sounds kind of stiff in the original trilogy because, again, you know, he's working for the Empire. And Obi-Wan has been in the core systems forever. You know, he hasn't quite acclimated to Tatooine, even though he's been there for 20 years. You know, so I mean, you can see why the dialogue could be a little stiff. You know. Yeah. Oh, one other thing. Speaking of deep lore cuts in Andor, have you seen season 1 of Andor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, Luthen, the shop he's got. Apparently, like some of the stuff in there is from the other shows and stuff. Like he has Padme's headdress from Attack of the Clones is there. Also, like Plo Koon's like face mask kind of thing, which led to everyone like, how the hell did he get that? Plo Koon is in a starfighter that got blown up.
Well, here's how. Plo Koon only has to use that for breathing in other atmospheres. He probably has a...
He had it on whenever the fighter got blown up.
No.
Probably is another one, that's what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying he probably changes them out, maybe whatever, that he has multiple...
That would make sense.
Of that. No, to your point, yeah, no, he was wearing it when he died. But no, like in his chambers, he probably has something that... that he can take that off, and I would assume. I mean, I would if I.
Yeah, for different environments. And stuff.
I just like how he can breathe in space for a period of time too, because like in the Clone Wars he did that, and he's just like,
holds his breath.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't even hold his breath because That is strange because at one point he talks in space.
Well, starfighters also make noise in space in Star Wars, so yeah.
I mean, I guess he could, sign it.
There you go. But yeah, it was good seeing it again in theaters. So I won't be nearly as excited to go watch Attack of the Clones again, but I will go watch it. So, like I said, I really wish Disney would just put all 6 of them back in theaters.
Yeah, like Attack of the Clones had the arena battle. That's about it.
Yeah,
that's it. The only thing.
I was surprised there were real trailers in front of it, though. Like the last couple of movies like this I've gone to go see didn't have trailers in front of them. It just starts.
See, they should have done trailers for the movies that happened during
the trailers that were on at the time.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Oh well.
Back when all of them had the same person that did the trailer, like
the trailer guy
that would talk to.
In a world where, that guy.
And then it's usually I've Got the Power playing in the background. Dee.
What was it, CNC Music Factory?
No. Snap. Yeah, I'm thinking of something else. Which one had the not clearly, but which one had the this is definitely not definitely. Which one had the this is not the woman singing? Because the woman actually they didn't think she was very photogenic for the video because she was larger. And so they had a woman just lip syncing in the video. Was that CNC Music Factory? Yes, that was CNC Music Factory, yes.
Yeah.
I was after asking for the song, and I was like, well...
No, I can't think of the songs, because like I said, I'm drawing a blank on the song that they have, but since our main demographic is our age, let us know down in the comments. Oh, interesting update on that real quick. We're now above 1% on a female audience. We're at 4%.
Oh.
So thank you, ladies, for signing up.
Yeah, and definitely let us know what you like down in the comments.
Yeah, and we're starting to expand beyond our age range. The age category, one younger than us, has got some people showing up finally. So I think that's like 25 to 35, I think.
Yeah, metrics are always neat to look at because it's always good to see what people
I
find.
still have no idea what other countries people are in. So I only see the top 3, and it's like the U.S., Canada, Great Britain, and then who knows? It's like 50% are in the U.S., like 2% are in Canada, 2% are in Britain, and I don't know where the hell the other 46% of you guys are.
Well, everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So yeah, that's probably all for the channel update. So.
All right.
On to topic number 1.
Yes.
Yes, and this is so topic number 1 is we wanted to discuss, can with all the show talking about Andor and stuff like that, can a Empire centric show where we focus on the bad guys, like I said, it's always from a point of view, Obi-Wan, because I think depending on your point of view, Empire may not be the bad guys, they may be the good guys, I don't know. Because, Andor definitely shows the rebellion ain't no, band of angels either.
Yeah.
But, could a Empire-centric show work? Simple answer, yes. Okay, next, no.
On to topic number 2.
So, me personally, I feel like obviously an Empire-centric show could work. Because you got to understand, I think a majority of people are just there to work. Heck, Luke was going to go to the academy at one point. He's not a bad guy. He doesn't, whatever. He just, it's a place to go. It's a place to be able to get off the planet. It's an employer. It's like working for Walmart.
Kind of. I think it might be more like working for BlackRock, but is it BlackRock? They the mercenaries? No.
That's Blackwater.
Blackwater, that's it.
BlackRock is the...
Yeah, they're the people who own everything.
Yes. But to a point, you're going to have people that are just there to do their job. You're going to have the people that are just there to, check inventory. And if you've ever, we talked about TIE Fighter on one of our previous videos, and for the most part on TIE Fighter, you were doing normally good things. It wasn't like you were, yes, the rebels would come in and you're like, well, yeah, I got to stop them because they're, they're traitors to the Empire. And if you just look at it as that, if they're like, well, no, this is our empire, we're part of this empire, these people are traitors, But for the most part, you were helping other systems, you were helping solve civil wars, trade disputes, whatever it may be. Sometimes the method wasn't always the right way of maybe approaching things, but in general, you were attempting to do the right thing to, keep, order in the system. And it wasn't always just shoot everyone. It was sometimes it's like bring people to the, bargaining table.
I actually kind of mentioned this in the video I mentioned towards the beginning, in that I think that part of the potential problem with the way things are progressing in some of the shows is that it's like every single Imperial that we meet is just a complete scumbag. And while I'm sure there are plenty of them in the Empire, because they are unequivocally the villains, I'm not trying to say we need to show them as nice people necessarily, but if they're all on that end, where did the people who defected come from? Because if every single Imperial is like this, how did Biggs ever be I'm going to go join the Empire? Because he would have met this officer who would have been a scumbag, and he would have been I don't think so. He wouldn't have made it very far before he's I'm out. Had a General Madine last however long he lasted in the Empire, presumably a long time since they made him a general, until, what was the breaking point? How did he not meet these people that are just complete scum?
Well, in season 1 of Andor, remember there was that guy who was he's just I'm just an Imperial officer, here's my family.
Yeah.
And...
yeah, you got people like that, but and to your point, so many of the people in the Empire are just like Cyril from season 1, they just work at the Department of Gauges and Calculations and stuff, and how many of these people are just holdovers from the Republic, who are just Republic, Empire, whatever, I'm working on Coruscant, plus on Coruscant, how many people have any clue what's happening out in the Outer Rim? Because that's part of the Tarkin doctrine, is also don't let the core systems know what's going on. It's crush the Outer Rim mercilessly, but the core systems, they don't know anything, basically. They have no idea what's happening out there. And the Empire controls the news, so... But also, there's a Facebook group I'm part of. It's Andor fans who sit there and bloviate constantly about Andor, and like, so one of them put up this chart of like where everyone falls, and one of them was Imperial apologists, and someone is like, it's like, I've got the feeling, based on the percentages here, that people that are showing up as Imperial apologists, that a lot of people played TIE Fighter back in the day. And one guy's like, oh, you mean the clearly superior version of X-Wing that had the better story, better controls, better this, that, and the other? Like, yeah, who would have played that? You know, so yeah, no, it's clear a lot of people played TIE Fighter.
Yeah, great game.
But yeah, like the overall, I think it could work. I've heard, because if people brought this up online, and I've heard people like, oh, we don't want a show that endorses space fascism. And I'm just like, it's fictional, first of all. But second of all, like, it doesn't have to. Like, part of it could be, let's have two characters sign up at the same time. One of them eventually starts seeing the problems and eventually defects. But the other one, something happens along the way that they're just like hardcore screw the rebellion and the horse they rode in on. Like, maybe their family is somewhere that the rebellion decides to target and gets destroyed. And they're like, no, like, they were just there. Like the people on the rebellion side who are like, man, they blew up Alderaan, we got to fight this. Well, you know, there's people on the Imperial side who are like, you know, the rebels came in and blew up my family, you know, or killed my uncle or somebody. Like, yeah. I'm going to go fight them. Like, show that, you know, if Andor is going to show us that rebellions are dirty and gritty, let's see the other side of like, well, you are kind of probably also just making more enemies along the way. You know, let's see that. And let's see how the Empire conditions people. Like, let's see how, because like they don't show the news in any of these. Like, show how the Empire has an iron grip on that, and the propaganda and things like that. And you know, maybe even pick a character that we know defects. You know, maybe make a show about Biggs or General Madine or somebody. You know.
Yeah, and I think if they do, they need to try to take taking current politics and try to inject that into. And I think when you do, then you're going to immediately divide the fan base in a way that's just not good for any shows.
Yeah,
I mean, you should have the political stuff, but understand it's their political stuff, not this political stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it to a point because you're going to have to have. There's going to have to be allegories from history, but what I see a lot of shows try to do right now is they're taking the current political environment.
Yeah, don't
inject that.
Don't do that. But like, the part of the problem is, if you like ignore what anyone has ever said, if you look at Star Wars, what do you think the political allegory is for? Like the original trilogy, what do you think it is? If you just forget what George Lucas has ever said, what do you think it actually is?
I don't know. You're asking me a philosophical question that I wasn't prepared for.
Okay, well let me throw you what I always figured it was. Okay, I always kind of considered, because of the way things are set up, because it's an American movie, because all the villains are British running an empire, that it was probably kind of loosely based on the American Revolution. You know, because if you think about how Han and Luke all talk, they sound like typical Americans. They're the underdogs, trying to overthrow a vastly superior force, ruled by an autocrat, you know, an emperor, like a king. No. It is the Vietnam War, the Empire's America, the rebels of the Viet Cong. That's what George Lucas has said. Would you have ever gotten that from Star Wars?
No.
Exactly. So the people I see online like, oh, this is what George Lucas says. Like, I don't care what the hell he says. He's wrong. Like, I'm sorry, but like, if you don't make your allegory properly, like, your position's invalid.
Well, and the great thing about that is that it's also subjective too, to how you interpret how those things are. Yeah. Because I know the other one that people do is obviously the Germans.
Well, that's the other thing is like, if you look at the way the Empire is structured, their weapons, the Imperial March, like, that is literally German music. Like, yeah. John Williams repurposed certain elements of German music from the German Socialist Party in the 30s. You know, those guys. And so clearly, like, you also have that metaphor of, you know, the fact that they're all human, you know, and so on and so on. Like, you can see it there too.
Well,
that they're clearly space fascists.
Yeah, because they
or space authoritarians. We still haven't actually seen in the live action the other element that fascism requires, but
the fact that like Admiral Thrawn got to Grand Admiral is a impressive feat because
yeah.
they're kind of xenophobic which is kind of weird to say because I'm assuming that they're all derived from a single humanoid race that populated multiple systems.
All right, so as I understand it, Coruscant is the original human world. That's why it's completely cityfied. And they spread from there. Like tens of thousands of years ago, humans spread out. Humans are the most populous race in the galaxy. And then there are others that are near humans, like the Chiss, probably evolved from humans. So,
but then the Rakatans evolved.
Yeah, their Cottons were different.
Well, no, but they manipulated other races to create like the other.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
No, well, and I don't remember which game or whatever that was in, but they were talking about. I think it was the Old Republic. That's not Knights of the Old Republic, just the one that's Old Republic.
The MMO.
Yeah. Supposedly, I guess in there that they had went in and described that they created like the Twi'leks, the humanoid offshoots, and that's why they all can interbreed.
Yeah, probably. Makes sense.
Trying to, make more force-sensitive beings or whatever.
But yeah, so to me, that's what you would need to do is, I think you're ultimately going to have someone turn to the rebellion, but you need to show, like, how people would actually join the Empire, like, for what they consider good reasons and not like death to the Xenos or whatever.
Oh, why did you join the Empire? Well, my planet before the Empire came was dirt poor and everyone was starving, but then the Empire came and brought us food and clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest, I think that is somehow how they got systems to join them. They're like, yeah, you kind of live in a, farming's not happening right now. You're having a huge drought, people like, hey, these are saviors coming to help us. They're helping us out.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they're just getting you in line. And
yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be an apologist show. Like, don't pull back on showing that the Empire are the villains, but just show that, like, because of their position of power, how they can manipulate things. And, like you guys are saying, like, yeah, they show up seeming to be saviors, but like behind your back, they're like, these gullible fools, like it was simplicity itself for us to conquer this planet. Like, thanks for signing up.
Yeah. We'll give you food, but we're also going to mine the crap out of your planet and take all your resources besides that.
Yeah. Or like, that picture I sent you. Did you see that? The one of Thrawn. So I'm going to read the quote on it here real quick. As long as my phone works here.
And Owen, we want to come to you. I want you to come up with an idea as
with some comments.
Or comments too.
Okay. So this is a quote from Thrawn. He's like, I encounter civilians like you all the time. You believe the Empire is continually plotting to do harm. Let me tell you, your view of the Empire is far too dramatic. The Empire is a government. It keeps billions of beings fed and clothed, day after day, year after year, on thousands of worlds. People live their lives under Imperial rule without seeing a stormtrooper or hearing a TIE fighter scream overhead. That's basically the core systems. That's what he's describing there. So, yeah.
So, Owen, what kind of show would you think would be good with the Empire-centric?
Well, a show like you said, or perhaps just a show to perhaps dive deeper and, show just more of the Empire, more of the nitty gritty of all of it.
The daily?
Yeah, to a point, I suppose. Like, not trying to show that they're good.
Yeah, like I said, it's not necessarily like an apologist, but, if you want to, you could show how people would be convinced that they're the least bad option.
And I don't understand why a lot of this is even a conversation for like people being against it, because look at how many other shows don't that focus on bad people. like I say, if you, I don't know, one comes to mind, Sopranos. I mean, the whole show's about bad people and the bad things that they do.
Yes.
So it's like,
or to your point, like Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But the thing about Breaking Bad was Walter White, while there are moments that you cheer for him, it's because he's fighting worse people. But like at the end of the day, he's still a drug dealing scumbag. Like, and actually like really bad because of just the sheer number of people he kills. And like, he's never shown in a heroic light. But the problem is from a narrative standpoint, you kind of have to. Because most people aren't going to root for the villain. Like, there has to be almost like a worse villain for them to fight, or something. There has to be some kind of like payoff, you know. So, but anyway, yeah. Go ahead, Owen. Don't want to hijack you there.
Well, no, yeah. Like, I mean, don't just, like, sure, show us, like, the stormtroopers, but, show more of the Imperial Navy. Show the Imperial Security Bureau.
They're getting a lot of coverage in Andor, but yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Or just the actual Imperial Army.
Yeah, because most of the Army's not stormtroopers.
Right. I think they're essentially the Marines.
I think they showed that in, like, the Solo. Like, he was an Imperial trooper, not a stormtrooper, just a trooper.
yeah, well, I think was it the
Minban?
yeah, I don't think wearing bright white armor would have been the right thing to do.
On the Mud Planet?
Yes. You'd be covered in mud by any point, so...
Well, that is one thing I'd actually like to see, is, like, we know the clones had camouflage. Like, I'd like to see the fact that the stormtroopers also have camouflage somewhere where it would make sense, instead of just, like to continue what we were talking about earlier, like, that's what also makes them the obvious British metaphor, because the British are running around in these bright red clothes, and the Americans are like, let's just sit in the trees and shoot them. Like, why would we line up against these guys? That's stupid. We can see them a mile away.
Well, and as I say, the fact that they didn't have any sort of actual camouflage is because the Emperor's like, well, why? He's like, I want to show power, not...
Yeah, but I mean, there's like you have to hit it like a practical thing at a certain point.
I know. It didn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense.
So, in the first 3 episodes of Andor, a stormtrooper actually hit a guy. He actually stopped and aimed, shot the guy and killed him. The comments were like, this is the single most important man in the entire Imperial military. It's a shame he got killed right after this. He could have taught the others how to aim. Like, hey guys, there's this thing on top of the gun. If we look through it, it really helps. But anyway,
Well, actually, in A New Hope, they weren't trying to...
I know it's a trope, because in A New Hope, they're letting them go. In The Empire Strikes Back, we see that whenever the Empire means business, the rebels get crushed. And then the only reason that they lose in Return of the Jedi is because they didn't anticipate them getting the local wildlife to help them out. Because, I mean, up against just the rebels, the Empire won. Like, they had them. They were done. And then, C-3PO rallied the Ewoks and, got his loyal followers using his divine influence. That's probably a war crime, trying to pretend you're a god.
But no, yeah, like, you took down a couple AT-ATs, but like...
Yeah, but the Empire's still like bashing your front door, probably killed several people, and, because I'm sure everyone didn't make it.
Random thing is, I don't even know why it made me think of it, but if they ever went back and, kind of just revamped a little bit of the original trilogy, just like through a little bit of, extended scenes, like say if they did their Lord of the Rings version of extended scenes, I think actually having the landing craft dropping the AT-ATs would have been kind of a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, of the things George Lucas did in the like super ultra enhanced special editions, the only real criticism I have, I can live with every other change he made.
Return of the Jedi's music scene, the musical number.
I can live with that. I'm not that attached to it. Is adding, whenever Vader is sitting there in his moment of decision of, am I going to let the Emperor kill my son, or am I killing this prune-faced bastard? Adding the whole, no, it's like, George, you completely destroyed the scene. Like, everything that was happening, the music, everything, like, it was perfect. You did not need to add anything to this. you completely ruined it. And it's the same thing I have against Peter Jackson in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There's one moment that I'm like, your movie is like 99% perfect. How did you make this one mistake? It's in Two Towers when they're getting ready to ride out, and Aragorn looks to the window, sees that it's a sunrise. That's all you needed. You did not need to have replaying Gandalf's words. You destroyed any hope of there was going to be a surprise right after that, because either you were paying attention, you knew it was coming, or you're in for one hell of a surprise. Either way, it works. You don't need that. Like that was totally narratively unnecessary.
The biggest issue I have with Two Towers is the fact that they kill Saruman at Orthanc.
That's in Return of the King.
Was it?
Yeah, special edition, very beginning. It's not even in the theatrical version.
Yeah, well, regardless, they robbed us of the chance of us getting Sharky.
Yeah. I mean, seeing the devastated Hobbit village and everything, like we kind of got that in like the Flash from whenever like Galadriel was testing for the ring. There, I think that's where we see it.
But see, they could have made another movie based off the Scourge of the Shire and had Saruman. Well, now they can't.
Yeah.
But I mean, unless they got somebody else and they're like, "Oh, I've changed my shape."
Well, I think it might be kind of hard to extend any scenes in the original trilogy, but maybe not in the prequels.
Well, the other idea, and it's one I've contemplated since I've seen some things online. What about remaking the original trilogies? Just hear me out before you start yelling. Take all the original music and dialogue, make it animated. Just use all the original music and dialogue, but then enhance the scenes like the lightsaber battles and everything, so that they're more in line with what we're used to. Make the actual battles like make the battle in Return of the Jedi 2 hours long, like the space battle.
Well,
let's see some stuff.
Well, there is one where they did the Obi-Wan Vader fight.
I've seen that.
And I don't mind it. I get like they had to superimpose Alec Guinness's face into certain shots, and you can obviously tell that he's not actually there. But there's a huge portion of that actually looks really decent and and kind of fits in line with what they would have been doing at that time. Now, I don't imagine Alec Guinness moving that quick ever, or even old Obi-Wan. Because even in the one Clone Wars where Obi-Wan finally kills Darth Maul?
That was in Star Wars Rebels.
Or Star Wars Rebels, whichever one it was in. And he finally kills Darth Maul. He was already moving a bit slower at that point, but still fast enough to counter Maul.
Yeah, it's like 3 strikes and Maul's dead.
But I do like the fact that he switches to Qui-Gon's fighting style to kill him.
Yeah. But no, I saw like an animated version of Luke and Vader fighting on the Cloud City, and like what you could really do with animation, but just keep the dialogue and everything. And I thought, well, that's about the only version of a remake I could get behind. I would go for that if they made things more line up across the 2 trilogies and, add to the things that we would want to see more of, Don't make certain things crazy. Like, don't have the Rebels launch, 50 fighters and 5 cruisers and go up against 8 Star Destroyers outside the first Death Star,
No.
Don't go crazy with that. Maybe add a few more TIE fighters, a few more dogfighting scenes, but that's about it.
And you could even have the dialogue. I mean, hell, throw the dialogue in there if you want to. If you want to have an extended scene in that one, where they just kind of go, sir, do we need to, call for any sort of reinforcements? They're like, with that force, they're like, just send out a squadron of TIE fighters or whatever, and just show how, obviously.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing people don't understand there is Tarkin was expecting him to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him, and he didn't realize this was it. This is the kitchen sink, that they had nothing left, that everything got smashed at Scarif basically, and so this is it. They've got some fighters. That's it.
I mean, mind it, for a normal attack force, they had a pretty decent fighter complement, but.
Yeah.
They really did not do the Y-Wing justice in that movie. Because it made you think, all these people that get stuck in these Y-Wings are probably like, damn it.
Well, the Y-Wing should actually be faster.
It
like,
is.
Like I've seen things that explain, like, the only reason we think it's slow is basically because of the X-Wing game, because we needed a slow-moving craft to be the bomber. And the same thing with the TIE bomber.
Well, and you could easily explain that with it was slower because it had heavier shielding because it needed to get in, drop its payload, and then be able to get out.
Well, no, the only thing worse than being the pilot in the Y-Wing is being the gunner.
Which they never showed, because actually, if you had the gunner in there, it makes one of the hardest vehicles to take out because they can shoot behind them.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
So, in other words, I think we believe that, yes, an Empire-centric show could work.
And it needs to work. Somebody get on that. And if Disney, if you're watching and you decide to use any of our ideas, make sure you credit us somehow. Get a hold of us.
You call our people.
I'm sure it's just an email on the thing that they'll send a message to.
I do have an email set up for that, so I need to check it to make sure that no one's contacted us yet.
How regularly do you check the email?
I checked it when I made it.
Haven't yet.
So no, I've checked it once or twice since then. Like, there's nothing there.
All right. Well, continuing on the Star Wars discussion topics.
Well, Jim, before we move on, I'd just like to remind everyone, if you've liked what you've heard thus far, to like, share, and subscribe, and all the other fun stuff here on YouTube. Also, on the off chance you're hearing this outside of YouTube, please do whatever you do there and come to YouTube and click a like or something. Because if we have fixed the sound issues, then this might be elsewhere also. So
yeah, we're hoping with the new setup that we can finally get that taken care of. So
yes, because we do want to make this like an actual like broadcast elsewhere kind of podcasty thing. So yeah, but there's been some sound issues up till now, and like I want to make sure they're all resolved because I'm literally just going to take the sound from this video and go with it. So anyway.
All right.
That's a spiel. So on to the next topic.
All right. So before I was interrupted.
Sorry, Jim.
No, it's all right.
We gotta pimp the channel here, dude.
I know.
That's the name of the game.
So this is a topic that we've had, just floating around between all of us here, because if you notice, a lot of times we do not give a lot of love to the sequel trilogy. Usually anything Disney had touched, we normally find some problems with. There's occasional gems like Andor, some of the Mandalorian.
They have the anti-Midas touch.
Even Obi-Wan to some points had some, redeeming. Was good enough that I wasn't too critical on it. I mean, there was still something questionable.
I thought Obi-Wan was better than anything in the sequel trilogy.
I know, but what I'm saying is that Disney has not had a great track record, especially with the movies. And we'll probably focus on the movies because I think that's where our biggest pain points are. But, we're trying to find what things we actually did like about those. Oh my gosh, it's hard for me to even get it out because it's like vomit wants to come up at times when I talk about it. But what things did we actually like about the sequel trilogy?
Well, more specifically, Disney Star Wars. I suppose more generally, but Disney Star Wars in general.
Yeah, and like I said, first of all, I was trying to think of, besides The Acolyte, I don't know if there's any real shows that were terrible. I mean, Mandalorian Season 3 was not really the greatest.
Jim, I tell you what, once you get around to watching The Acolyte, you'll understand the Mandalorian Season 3 was like Oscar-worthy in comparison.
Though, it was Season 3 that had the Jack Black episode in it, right?
Doesn't matter.
Because... No, I mean, actually...
That episode also had Christopher Lloyd.
That
more than balances it out.
I actually liked that episode with the underground.
Yeah, it was nice to see that, like...
Robots go somewhere.
The robots, like the separatist loyalist guy, like... Yeah. It's some nice things. I'm just not a big Jack Black fan.
Yeah, and again, when you see him in a show, it's not like, oh, he's this character and just happens to be played by Jack Black. No, it's Jack Black playing some character. Yeah. And then Lizzo for some reason. Nothing against Lizzo. It's just kind of both those characters kind of pulled you out. It's just like, and it's something about the way that being an actor is supposed to take the famous person out of it. And sometimes just certain characters just don't really do that. I think Jack Black does great for voiceover work because while you may know it's him doing the voices,
Can't see him.
you can't see him. And again, nothing against his looks. I'm not saying he's like,
Yeah,
"Ugh."
yeah. Our point isn't like, oh man, he's hideous. Like, no. It's that he usually plays himself, like we said in the last episode.
But that I think in the Last Jedi, I think the throne scene could have been spectacular, and I think on the first watch it was like, oh, this is awesome, But then when you actually look at it, and you're like, weapons are disappearing and people are doing things that just don't make sense. People falling backwards when no one's around them and there's not like a force push going on. And you just realize it's a terribly choreographed, fight scene, which had the potential to be, maybe in the top 5 greatest fight scenes in any of the Star Wars movies. And then they screw it up with terrible choreograph, which, speaking of which, that would be something if they ever went back and did a special edition. Redo that whole thing, fix it.
Yeah.
Because, it was kind of dumb with the way they killed Snoke. Whatever. But everything else after that should have been a good fight scene, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Interesting side note to kind of what you were saying there. Episode 6 of Andor, all of a sudden Bail Organa is no longer Jimmy Smits. He was replaced by Benjamin Bratt. And it's just like, who the hell's this guy? Oh, that's Bail Organa? No, it's not.
Why?
Scheduling conflict.
Oh.
Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I mean, Rogue One was 10 years ago. He looks too old. Like, no, the guy who made the show, it's like, no, it's a scheduling conflict. Like, it was this, or like, you're waiting another year for Andor. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Benjamin Bratt plays the part just fine. He's a decent actor. But it's like, he's not Jimmy Smits. Like, Jimmy Smits is a larger man. And, just looks different. Like, I don't know that there is a guy that looks kind of like Jimmy Smits out there, but like, then I see other people like, I didn't even notice he's replaced. I was like, how could you not? Like, you're literally telling me that like all Hispanics look the same to you or something. Like you would never confuse these two people. It'd be like Wesley Snipes and Lawrence Fishburne. Like, you will never confuse these two men. Like, yeah. So I just thought it was kind of in line with what you're saying there.
But I think there were a couple of glimmers of hope in the sequel trilogy that really stand out. So, like I said, if they fixed the throne room scene, I think it would be a standout moment in The Last Jedi. Nothing else in there is worth any 2 cents. Everything on the Salt Planet was just stupid.
It was.
Salt Planet.
Yes, Crate.
Yeah,
basically,
Crate.
Can we do Hoth again, but now it's Salt?
And for some reason, these speeders have skis that have to be on the ground for some reason. And we got like the mega AT-ATs were pretty cool, but the siege cannon was kind of stupid.
Siege cannon was stupid. Apparently, there's regular AT-ATs in there among them too.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice.
yeah.
that.
I think they did so they could see the size comparison, and it makes sense to have both.
Yeah.
But I don't think anything about that scene made a whole lot of sense. You destroyed a heroic you stopped the heroic sacrifice. You could have had somebody else do it. Have Rose do it. I don't know. But
Not the potato, Jim. Then she could be a baked potato.
and people are like, oh yeah, the beginning with the Poe Dameron taking out all the guns. I'm like, no. If it was that easy, no capital ship would be saved for anything.
Well, because the capital ship had a giant weakness in the middle of it, like it's a video game.
No, not only that, it obviously never had its shields on because, the whole point of the turbo lasers are that you have to, well, first of all, get close enough. And second of all, you have to still take down the ship's shields or you're just dropping bombs onto its shield, onto a shielded surface.
Yeah.
But none of that made sense. Like I said, but Force Awakens, I think they started off strong with Snoke. I think Snoke was a great idea. I think it had a lot of allure. I mean, we talked about it forever and ever and ever about who he was and all.
Still disappointed it wasn't Porkins.
I'm disappointed it wasn't anybody. It was just, he made him in a tube.
Yeah, I guess technically it's like a corrupted version of Palpatine. I think is what we're supposed to believe.
That he made him 7 feet tall, and
Well, it's the whole cloning a Force user thing. Like, or he was an older Force user, and they were using him as the template to try to figure out how to clone Palpatine.
well, I also wonder if like they had to keep like replenishing him like all the time, and that's why they just had a jar full of them in Rise of
I was
Skywalker.
gonna say I never read the Dark Empire comic, but I think that's what they had to do with Palpatine once they started cloning him. I think was that he kept needing new bodies because he was burning through him with his dark side powers or something.
But in the Force Awakens, you had that moment where it could have been something great. But as I say, the one standout moment, since I know now where that went, would have been the Millennium Falcon chase on. My gosh, why can't I
Jakku?
on Jakku through the Super Star Destroyer and all of that. Well, I have to, you have to get, some whatever that she could fly that thing like that because, we'd have to assume that somehow because she messed with junk, she was a great pilot, even though she's never flown, besides her little, whatever. Great looking scene. And then in, obviously, The Rise of Skywalker, actually seeing the Emperor get a let loose. Even though everything leading up to it, after it, everything else...
Everything else is trash, but that moment is glorious.
That moment was glorious. Yes, you're all the Jedi. I am all the Sith.
Yeah, which kind of leads you back to the Darth Bane theory that it's just been him transferring all along, because then he would be all the Sith, because he would have literally been all of them. Well, from him onward anyway.
Yeah.
So 1,000 years of them. So, Owen, you want to go or you want me to go?
I mean, like, I got a lot to say. I mean, I can probably find something good. Like, Rogue One was actually probably the best Disney Star Wars movie.
You don't get any argument from me on that.
And I would agree with that. I was trying to go with more of because I think Rogue One is kind of like they had to work within the realm of what came before and what came after. They were very tight on what they could do. And while there are some things that just don't quite work out, the fact that Darth Vader's lines when he boards the Tantive 4 don't make any sense.
The whole, I literally just saw you leave with the plans. Why are you lying to me?
Because what should have happened is the ship should have left in a hurry before he even saw what it was. And
yeah, have the ship jumps to hyperspace, then he gets through and sees the empty room where it was, yeah.
And then they're like, well, we caught a ship leaving, but we couldn't identify the, whatever. They had a jammer or something.
Yeah.
So we didn't see it. And then everything would have fit. But anyways, continue, Owen.
I mean, I think Solo, a Star Wars story, had some good moments. I just forgot most of the movie. I mean, the train scene looked cool.
Yeah.
Solo should have succeeded. Solo was not a bad movie. Was it a necessary movie? No. But was it a bad movie? Not really. I mean, I think the problem with Solo is that people boycotted it because it was The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
The Last Jedi. And, I mean, to be honest, I don't think they should have gave it the hate that they did, because I think it was actually a decent movie. It actually felt better in a more Star Wars sense than...
Yeah, I mean, I still want to see this Donald Glover Lando project occur. I liked him as Lando. And I don't, and the guy that played Han, I know he doesn't look anything like Harrison Ford, but I thought he did a decent job. So,
just speaking of that, I wonder if the Millennium Falcon ever flirts with Lando while he's flying it.
there's the extra scene we need in Return of the Jedi. Oh, welcome back aboard, Lando. How's it been?
I've got a port you can...
It's a long story. We'll tell you if we survive this Death Star attack. Yeah. Andor later on, I'm talking to Han. Han's like, I know. Just
Force Awakens. I mean, Force Awakens. It had good scenes. I think it was the best of the sequel trilogy.
I would agree with that.
It had a promising start. I think, all the stuff with... I think in that movie, Finn was a good character.
Yeah, Finn had, again, everybody had this potential to be, like if they had wrote it at like an actual arc for each of these characters, even Snoke and all that, it would have been a better put together thing. There is one major issue I have with The Force Awakens, though. Even though I think it's the best, the major one is Starkiller Base, because the weapon makes no sense. Cool, you suck the energy of a star, that's fine. But how the hell do you fire it across space and expect it to take any time to, does it go through hyperspace at that point when you fire it?
It can't, because you could see it,
I know.
and also how can you see it?
So was it? It should have taken like a stupidly long time to reach anywhere.
Well, yeah, they should have fired it back during the. It was like we happened
Back during the Infinite Empire.
Yes. And then it would have gotten there. And yeah, because that and when they were on Maz Kanata's planet and seeing it fly over.
Yeah.
It should have never been close enough to see.
Right.
Yeah, no. People don't understand how space works.
Well, I think that's more specifically old Jar Jar Abrams doesn't understand how space works, because he did some similar things in Star Trek, where there are things that just should not be happening based on the lore of the setting.
And that
It's similar actually. It's Kirk and old Spock being able to see the destruction of Vulcan. Unless that's in the same system, and even then it would take time for them to see it and everything.
Because they did actually have a weapon that could fire through hyperspace, and that was that.
The Galaxy gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would have been fine. Like if they would have had Ilum being, they had to suck the power of the sun to fire the Galaxy gun for some whatever reason. But no, there's the big thing that the ultimate weapon should be, we're just putting hyperdrives on asteroids and launching them into planets.
Well, yeah.
and Last Jedi. I mean, we talk about Snoke being a wasted villain, but I mean, the sequel trilogy is just like a graveyard of wasted potential almost. What about wasted side villain? Do you all remember even Captain Phasma?
Barely.
The silver stormtrooper lady?
Yeah.
And again, wasted character.
I thought that, her dynamic with Finn being on they started in the same place but went completely different directions could have been cool.
And her character arc in The Force Awakens actually is she's no, I was I'm here because for the glory, but I'm also here for myself, and fuck, if it's my life or saving this super weapon, I'm doing it for myself. And it was again, character that went nowhere
and ended up falling to her doom in the Supremacy, was it? The stupidly wide Star Destroyer?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's when I went to the bathroom. And I have never rewatched that movie, so.
Well, there's a time for everything.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I'll rewatch it.
I know we've talked on this channel before about
I
rewatching The Last Jedi.
I just haven't bit the bullet.
So I say, for me, The Last Jedi is my Spider-Man 3. I just can't do it.
Are you sure The Rise of Skywalker isn't?
No, Rise of Skywalker has some redeeming stuff. But They Fly Now is the absolute worst worst dialogue out of any Star Wars movie I've ever seen.
Jump Troopers. Okay, well,
Existed before that.
they existed before the First Order. There were Jump Troopers. They existed before the Empire. They've had jetpacks for thousands of years.
Yeah.
The Mandalorians had them thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
So They Fly Now makes no sense.
Well, no, it's one of those. It's a scene meant for little kids, and I get that because they were like, ha ha ha, they said they fly now, and it's I get it. You're trying to
almost as bad as the line as the dead speak.
But there's no need. The original series, had very few lines to cater to a particular audience. It's tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell the story. And if it's a good story, everyone will enjoy it. You don't have to have, I mean, some of the banter with in The Force Awakens. Oh my gosh, this went from what did we like about it to, again, still bash. This is the problem with even talking about what you like. Because it's this was okay. I kind of like this, but this was shit. No, the fact that when Han was shooting Chewbacca's bowcaster, like he's never done that ever in any situation,
or ever seen Chewie shoot it for that matter.
Yeah,
Like the whole being surprised by like, oh wow, I just took out like 5 guys. Like we've been together for like 30 years. How have I never noticed this?
yeah, no.
Well, it'll be longer than that.
But it does foreshadow the fact that Kylo Ren tanks one of those bowcaster shots. Now,
Well, you see, whenever talking about the good, you have to talk about the bad. It's as Palpatine said, to understand the great mystery, one must study all its aspects.
One must take a larger view of the sequel trilogy. Yeah, anything else in there you like, Owen? Before I start my diatribe here?
I don't know, like, the Mandalorian's first seasons were good. I thought,
you thought that Mandalorian season 3 was like Picard season 2, almost unwatchable.
I still haven't watched Picard season 2.
Book of Boba Fett could, I thought seeing Cad Bane in live action was pretty cool. Rest of Book of Boba Fett wasn't so cool.
Missed opportunity to really have the Rancor go to town on things, but
Missed opportunity on the Space Vespas.
And that's an opportunity that should have been missed. All right.
I don't have anything else to say.
All right, here we go. We're going to time this and we'll see how long this takes. All right, what
That's
do you
all I've got. Just a laugh. Okay, focusing on the sequel trilogy. I'm not going to lie, I did get a chuckle when Luke just tossed the lightsaber over his shoulder. Like, before I thought of the greater implications of that moment. Like, in the moment, it was funny. But then it was, like, even before I even left the theater, I was like, that was stupid. Like, that wasn't funny.
Well, I was going to say Mark Hamill, Mark Hamill even said that, like, he didn't even like the direction they took Luke. Like, they said this is just not a natural direction. Like, okay, he's in exile. Like, I could get that, but everything else leading up to it, I mean, he's like he's turning into Anakin. Like, he's turning into just to a whiny baby.
Yeah.
But, anyways.
I liked the force projection across the galaxy. Because even though we didn't get the, Luke could literally just crush all these guys in a moment, we did get the, let's see anyone else do this part, I did not like the fact that, like, apparently that was enough to kill him. And he died doing what he loved, staring at the twin suns. So, didn't care for that. I did like Palpatine just cutting loose in Rise of Skywalker. That was nice. I did like Lando coming back in Rise of Skywalker. Didn't really do much with him, but I liked the fact he was back. And even though I don't really care for the final battle much either, I like the fact they brought Wedge with them. That was a nice touch. Just to see, some other characters that should probably still be alive joining up. God, I'm trying to think of things that aren't just going to lead me to talking about things I hate in the movies.
Yeah, well, and it's fine if it leads down that route. But
I mean, if you want to be like, I like the concept, but...
Yeah, I mean, like, conceptually, like we said, The Force Awakens was probably the best of the 3 movies. It's just that, like, all the problems that come up later, the groundwork is in The Force Awakens for them. Like, killing Han Solo was a major mistake, in my opinion, like, from a narrative standpoint. There was so much left to do with Han. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't die before the end of the trilogy. But to have him be there and, like, kind of help the rebellion, kind of help Rey, or maybe Poe or Finn, to kind of guide them along and then get killed to have his death maybe be the genesis of Kylo Ren turning back to the light side, so that it's not him that kills him. Something like that could have been better. Have him be part of trying to redeem Kylo Ren. Have him be the one trying to find Luke to try to redeem Kylo Ren. Narratively, there were so many things left to do with him. And the same thing with Leia. Now, Leia, obviously, you're under the hard fact that, Carrie Fisher died. There wasn't anything we could do about that.
I was actually kind of surprised that they didn't kill her off in Last Jedi just to...
Well, that was the thing. They had time to... What was it? No, they couldn't change it. Oh, yeah, that's what it was her and Luke. They had time because of the reshoots and everything that once she was dead, they could have chosen to kill her off and not kill Luke, since Mark Hamill was still alive.
Yeah.
And they were just like, nah, let's not. Because, Rian Johnson, he knows better than all of us. Not really, but it's a shame I like his other movies. I liked the way the hyperspace ramming scene looks. I think it's utterly ludicrous from how everything in Star Wars works, but it looks fantastic. Also, I'm all aboard for Holdo just, dying in any way, shape, or form. But, that way works, I guess. Because she was a moron. Because that whole, what you were talking about earlier as far as how easily Poe just, wiped out the TIE fighters and then the capital ship and everything. It's and then she's like, oh, well, you can't solve all your problems by jumping into an X-Wing. And I'm like, I saw the beginning of the movie. I'm pretty damn sure you can. Give Poe an X-Wing. This problem will all be solved. That's clearly what should happen here. We established that back in the first movie, which again is that whole, all of our problems come back to that movie. Because Poe was too good. Because J.J. Abrams doesn't understand anything. You can't have Poe just flying and wipe out, 10 TIE fighters. It's why are the other fighters even there? From a realistic standpoint, the Rebellion knows he's that good. He knows he's that good. Why is the First Order even sending fighters?
They should have stuck him in one of the bombers, too, and he would have taken out that, too. He's like, hold on, I'm going to fly back and get into the bomber.
Yeah. So, the single greatest tactical thing the First Order did was take out their fighters. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, pull back, we can't cover you. I'm like, from what? They just blew up all their fighters. They clearly have free range to just do whatever. Plus the Empire, the First Order, doesn't give a damn about their TIE fighter pilots. That's the whole point.
Well, and the fact that they...
Plus, their lead one has the Force. I'm sure he'll be fine.
Well, and the fact that they were able to somehow...
Take out the bridge and kill Admiral Akbar?
Yes. Without destroying any shields.
Yeah.
And the only thing they could possibly say is in that moment is that they had to have their shields focused on the rear.
Yeah.
But even then, I don't think they would, because they were barely even tagging the rear with any consistency.
So I will say... I kind of liked Canto Bite, when they didn't hook up with the guy they were supposed to, and they ended up hooking up with someone else. The whole oh, this sounds like an awesome plan, then it gets derailed, but somehow looks like it still might work. I was actually okay with those parts of that, but then the whole oh, but by the way, let's free Broom Boy and the others and the horses, and it's your colleagues are dying out in space, right? You don't have time for this crap. And then the fact that the other guy ended up, being a traitor, I'm kind of okay with that too, because he wasn't the guy, and he kind of phoned it in that I'm going to screw you at some point, I'm a thief, that. So having the whole thief with the heart of gold turn out to not have a heart of gold, I'm cool with that. Yeah. I wish we would have gotten more Snoke. Again, I don't like the way things went in The Force Awakens, but had they led to better movies, I could have lived with it.
Well, and there was one big kind of we're better than George Lucas moment where they're here's the first Death Star, here's the second, and here's Stark. I'm what was the point of that? Obviously one's a planet.
Yeah, also, I did kind of like the almost self-referential moment of Han trying to tell Finn, that's not how the Force works.
You know what? You're talking about banter. That one made sense.
Yeah.
Because he's I've seen how the Force works. You can't just... He's that's more like luck.
Yeah. Never tell them the odds. But yeah, like that comment, that made sense. You know, in the moment, them getting through the shields made no sense whatsoever.
Because they should have split it into the planet if that was the case.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, if that was the case, then you would just fill up a ship full of, nukes or whatever, space nukes,
Yeah.
Star Wars nukes, and just
Thermal detonators.
Yeah, just launch them through the shields of, oh my gosh, why can't I think of the
Like the Holdo maneuver?
no, the spot, the one, the Bothan planet, Bothawi. It's got a shield generator. That's why the Empire never, took it out. That's what the Death Star was going to be for.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hyperspace ships right through their shield generator, blow up the planet.
But yeah, and again, not to harp on the bad, but the way they dealt with hyperspace in The Force Awakens, how it seemed like the rebels were just chilling in hyperspace till they got the signal to come attack the Starkiller base. Like, that's not how hyperspace works either. You don't just pull over in the hyperspace lane and wait. Like, you're in motion. Like, you can't just do laps. And then of course that leads to Revenge of the Sith, where it's like, oh, we just materialized in the atmosphere on a planet with something right in front of us.
You mean Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah, Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, it's definitely not Revenge of the Sith. Sorry, folks. Thank you, Owen.
In Revenge of the Sith, they still use hyperspace rings.
Yeah. Rise of Skywalker, where they're just boom, 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 that one sequence, where half the time in the atmosphere on a planet with something right there. I've seen the other Star Wars movies. You can't initiate the hyperspace jump that fast. You would be just splattered because you're still going at near light speed. You'd just be, you wouldn't even have time to think, oh shit, you'd just be dead.
And I think they get some of that from Return of the Jedi. I think there's a scene where all the ships are coming in out of hyperspace and they kind of look like they almost come to a stop. But it's not that. It's that they go from light speed to, slowing down speed, which immediately looks like they're going to a crawl because they went from, faster than light to not faster than light.
Right.
So it's going to look very drastic. They don't come to a stop.
Right.
They're still moving.
But yeah, so you had those. As a character, I liked Poe Dameron. Again, other than the fact that he's way too good for not being a Force sensitive or something, he's fine as a character. Finn started off fine as a character, then they did nothing with him. Rey from the beginning is almost bad. Not when she's on Jakku until she gets in the Falcon, but from that point forward, it's just why don't you just give her the lightsaber, send her into the Starkiller base, she's going to win the whole war for you. That's what's going to happen here. And there's no explanation, there's no buildup. And I know people say that about Luke, but no, there are little clues. Plus, Luke suffers a few major setbacks along the way. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yes, Luke was able to torpedo the first Death Star. He had Obi-Wan guiding him, and the Force guides you a little bit. And it's okay. And I get Rey being able to do certain things, but her being able to battle Kylo Ren should never have happened in the first movie. It should have been her getting her, just thrown around, and then the chasm opens up, and him going, next time.
Yeah.
Something, and then she gets saved by that. Fine, she pulled the lightsaber to her. I'm okay with parts of it.
Because again, The Force Awakens is the root of our problems. From her beating him there, even though, yes, he did take a hit to the side and everything, but he just bodied Finn like he was nothing. Should have killed him, because I'm pretty sure he just fried his spine with his lightsaber, but whatever. From that point forward, Kylo Ren's not a threat. She's proven she can beat him, and she's only going to get stronger as the trilogy goes on. So the second movie, of course she's going to beat him. By the third movie, I don't even know why Kylo Ren's bothering. He's clearly not the threat. And since they took out Hux and they took out Snoke, of course it has to be the Emperor. What else do you have? Who else do we have that we know could be a threat? That rando Imperial general who shoots, I just said his name, who shoots Hux. No, he's just some guy. But Hux, they destroyed him in the beginning of The Last Jedi, where Snoke just throws him around like a rag doll. Like, could never be taken as a serious threat after that. He should have shot Kylo Ren in the back whenever he was down. Like, that would have proven he was a real threat. Be like, enough of this lightsaber crap.
Yeah, because he went from being like, a very intimidating individual in The Force Awakens,
Yeah.
Giving that whole speech.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know what kind of vibes they were trying to give with that.
I think I do, and I think they accomplished it, but because I hear you shouldn't watch it in German. But, that's clearly what they were going for. But now from the sequel trilogy, that's about it that I actually liked. It's a lot of wasted potential. I mean, like the rest of the stuff they made, Rogue One was excellent. Andor is excellent. Solo was at least good. I thought the Obi-Wan series probably should have just been a movie and condensed it down and maybe remove Reva because she's just an annoying character. Nothing against the actress, it's the way she's written. Like that character would not be allowed to exist in the Inquisitor Corps. Like the Grand Inquisitor would have killed her a long time ago because she's just sitting there basically just defying orders constantly. Like in an organization that has no trouble killing insubordinate subordinates, like she would not have lasted.
Yeah.
That's my main problem with her.
Or at least be like the other Inquisitors and have multiple missing limbs.
Yeah. So I only have a few problems with the Obi-Wan series. Overall, I liked it. I liked Ahsoka. I've got some problems with it, but I liked it. It was entertaining. And like I said, The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 are great. Probably my favorite moment from anything Disney's done is in the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian when Luke shows back up. And that was the whole, like, let's see Luke in his prime where he just dismantles the Dark Troopers like they're nothing. And you could tell everyone's like, oh, it's only a single X-Wing. And I'm just like, it was one of those moments like, surely to God, it's not going to be what I hope it is here. And it was. And like, not going to lie, there was a tear in my eye at that point. But yeah.
Hey, there's a thing we could go into the Dark Trooper program a little bit further and have Kyle Katarn come in.
Yeah, but like, season 3 of The Mandalorian was watchable, but it wasn't great.
Hey, I just realized what I just did there.
That's it.
I segued into our next topic.
Well, but yeah, like I said, except for the Acolyte, there was like, I am hard pressed to think of anything that was good in the Acolyte, other than old Squid Game. He was good. I feel bad for him, but other than that, yeah, no, that show is bad. So yeah, that's me.
All right. Do you want to do the...
Yes. So, folks, if you liked what you saw there, like, share, and subscribe and all the other fun stuff here on YouTube. And if you're not listening to this on YouTube, like, whatever you do there, I know, but
we're doing it again.
Do it again. See, like, it's about repetition. Like, you got to remind people, because some people, like, just don't do that. Plus, if I break this up into segments, I don't have to record another thing to put at the end of it because I've already got it. So, yeah. Don't worry, Owen, you're going to hear it again before we're all done.
And maybe we're just getting old and like to repeat ourselves.
But also, no, I've seen other people's podcasts. They do it like every 9 minutes. Like, we're not going to go that far, but... So, yeah. So, folks, if you've already done it, sorry for the spiel again, but, like, this is the way it works. I'm sorry.
Have somebody else subscribe that you know.
Good call, Jim. Good call.
We do appreciate all the comments, all the likes, and all the subscribers.
Yes.
So.
Appreciate all of it, and thank you, folks, who helped us get over 500 subscribers. Like, that was very nice, and literally couldn't have done it without you.
So I was talking about the segue because the next topic that we have is, what extended universe EU content could we bring over to new canon or make, additional shows or movies and stuff out of? And I just mentioned the one that would be a great one, and that is the Dark Trooper project, Dark Forces, the video game. Now, I don't know if you call that EU. Would you call that kind of stuff EU?
Yes, that's the old EU.
So, being able to have, where did the Dark Troopers come from? Kyle Katarn, and seeing him turn into a Jedi. Real badass.
Yeah.
For me, obviously, I'm not as much of a book reader, so you guys may hit the books a little bit more. But my stuff is going to come from mostly the video game realm. So, Dark Forces, yes. Jedi Outcast, also yes. Shadows of the Empire. That should be a movie. That's a movie I think you can get away with not having the original cast maybe all there. You may have to have a stand-in for Carrie Fisher because she does at one point get kidnapped. Is it necessary? No. Is it necessary to have Han and Luke in there? I don't think so because there's like very little communication between them. I mean, there's a little bit on Hoth.
Well, I was going to say, for a large segment, Han is, a frozen block of carbonite.
Correct. And there's a little bit of him chasing Boba Fett, which great thing about Boba Fett is he's in armor. You could have anybody play him. It's all right. I think it would be a great thing to translate because it's kind of a self-contained story, and then the few characters that you have to have all wear suits of armor of some sort. So Darth Vader, Boba Fett. It would be fine, and they've already shown that they can do an awesome, droid in IG-11 in the Mandalorian. IG-88 needs to come in and be the badass motherfucker that he is, and just wreck some shit. I mean, since Disney's gonna be doing it, Ord Mantell's, they're already good with trash.
Wow.
Some people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Ord Mantell's it's a trash planet if you didn't know.
Yeah, featured in Shadows of the Empire and The Force Unleashed.
Yes.
So, Jim, the alternative would be just make an animated movie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even care the format they make it in. To your point, Shadows of the Empire could be complete. Make it in N64 graphics.
Just use the N64 game.
Recorded as a movie. And TIE Fighter.
Yeah. Well, TIE Fighter could be the answer to back to question number one.
Exactly.
So, at one point, though, Shadows of the Empire was considered canon, wasn't it? Because, I mean, it had the novel, it had a soundtrack, had a video game, had action figures. Like, I think it was considered canon for a while.
And even if it is or isn't, I mean, like I said, I'm speaking.
I know it's not under Disney, but I think it was Disney that revoked the canon from it. I think.
But I mean, they need to just shut up and reinstate it because, I mean, it's a great story. It's self-contained. It has a big bad. It has a space station to blow up. It's got new fighters and the Star Viper or whatever that's called.
Whose was that? Is that Shizor's?
Shizor's fighters,
yeah.
yes.
The Virago.
You also had that weird robot thing that it was in his palace that you had to fight. It had like the same like mechanics as like the AT or ATSTs that you had to fight in the game, where you could just like strafe it underneath it and it couldn't really do anything, except for when it became just a floating head.
Didn't he have a? Is it Geary? Is she a cyborg or a robot that was working for him? Like, she looks like a person, but I think she's a robot.
I don't know. Sounds like Lex Luthor with his robot chauffeur bodyguard thing that he had.
Well, that's a real woman.
No, I think she actually turns into. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Because I know back in the day, he literally just like drove around like to truck stops and picked women up, saying he's going to give them everything, and then just like left them in the morning. And she was the one that was driving him around the whole time. Mercy, I think's her name.
I think at some point he turns her into a robot. Or she is a robot. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Whatever.
Let's look that one up.
We're talking about Star Wars.
Hey, for the people that don't like Star Wars, we have to throw these tidbits out there or they'll get bored.
This is the Star Wars special.
This is what we're about. Rambling on about things that somehow are connected in our minds that nobody else can find a connection to.
We'll have to make another one around December. We'll call it the Star Wars Christmas special. There's something that needs to be canonized.
Change our sign back there and have Life Day written on it.
Well, Life Day's canon.
Yeah, Life Day actually is canon. Of all the things from that show to make canon. Like, B. Arthur's what should have been made canon. Pouring a drink into some dude's head. Anything else, Jim?
I'm trying to think if there's any other. I don't know that the Force Unleashed itself, I don't know that it would translate very well into anything.
I mean to get out there as a joke because the Force Unleashed is like, it veers almost too much into the ridiculousness, almost edgy fan fiction that it sort of is.
No, there's one moment though I'd like to see recreated, and that was where he was pulling the Star Destroyer down. Not so much pulling it down as he was like directing it into the planet.
Yeah.
Because it was already on its crash course on its way down, and he was trying to direct it where it was going to go. And like, maybe it was trying to like swoop off, and he was just. But no, the fact that he somehow beats Vader and the Emperor, and then dies to just get resurrected again.
Yeah. Well,
the Force Unleashed too.
That's where you got to take into account some things I've seen written about KOTOR, where the broad strokes of the plot can be canon, but like the actual like feats you see within the video game, you have to accept are from a video game. Like they can't actually do most of those things.
Yeah. Though I don't care, even though I try to always do the good path, Force Lightning's a requirement.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a little dark side points here and there. Yeah, Force Lightning, it's good Force Lightning. It's a force of good.
So maybe not the Force Unleashed, but
KOTOR would be.
Yeah, we need to see the Knights of the Old Republic at least in live action at some point.
They could actually film KOTOR 2 and actually give it an ending.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But yes, like I say, my stuff comes from that. That would be mine. Maybe not make Rebel Assault. With the Phantoms, the TIE Phantoms, and the.
What do you have against the TIE Phantom?
It's kind of a silly. If they could do that, then why not put shields on them?
Because you don't need shields. If you don't know the enemy's out there, why are you even shooting? You don't need shields.
Well, why do you need the TIE Phantom when you could just make the entire Super Star Destroyer cloaked?
Because it's too large.
But see, this is the thing. Let's say that you have a Super Star Destroyer cloaked, and you have you just drive it into the enemy fleet. What are they going to do? They're going to run into it and be like, ah.
Well, like the first one hits you, it's probably going to destroy the cloaking device.
Yeah.
But beyond that,
not on a Super Star Destroyer.
But beyond that, the Super Star Destroyer can only be in one place at one time. Like, that's why there are all the other Star Destroyers around it being loaded up with TIE Phantoms.
Well, that's why you go to Exegol and make 20,000, 10,000 Super Star Destroyers, all with cloaking devices and super lasers attached to their freaking foreheads.
Hey, look.
But how are they going to get out of the atmosphere?
Oh, they got to have a beacon. That was the reason why that didn't work.
Look, this is the people at LucasArts had no idea that people would come up with a plot that preposterous later on. Like, it's very clear that they were like operating under. Well, George Lucas is mostly sane. Like,
they just don't understand how like everything breaks. Now, it does go into my fan fiction that the reason that they built all the droids was to manufacture the Star Destroyers on Exegol.
There you go. That's how they built them. They sent all the battle droids there.
So, if that ever shows up, I'm going to take credit on that.
Okay, what else you got?
Because you've read some of the books.
Yeah.
Or they repurposed the Star Forge.
I mean, chances are what you and I say probably be pretty similar.
So there's a fair chance on that.
Like, I don't know if I like the Darth Plagueis novel. I don't know if you could turn into a movie or a TV show, but
I think it could turn into a movie.
Or one you've mentioned many times, Shatterpoint.
Yeah, Shatterpoint would definitely be on my list. But I would take it one step farther. Because I've argued for a long time that George Lucas's big mistake was he should have made like a trilogy of movies between 2 and 3 covering the Clone Wars. I know he intended on making the series later, but like your average moviegoer didn't watch the series. Should have made a trilogy of movies so that whenever Order 66 comes down, we actually care about all these rando characters getting killed that most people are like, who's that? I don't buy the action figures. Who's this person? You know?
Well, yeah, you only knew it if you, I mean, like, watched either the Clone Wars series, but mainly the one that would come afterwards.
Well, right. That's the other problems that came afterwards. So, like, make one of them Shatterpoint, and then, you know, two others, you know, focus on other characters. Yeah, that's the way I would do it.
You mean like when Ayla Secura got gunned down on Felucia?
Yeah.
And people were like, yeah, whatever.
But
Yeah, pretty much.
A random Twi'lek gets shot. Why is she out there?
Yeah.
I mean, but you know, Kiyoda was out there.
Well, why wasn't he helping the Wookiees? Like
He was on my Geeto.
I know, but like he was critical of, like, you know, that attack on the Wookiees. Like, that needed to be answered. He should have been there helping Yoda. Like, what's her name that we totally don't see get killed, but she had to have died, and Yoda like knows the attack is coming for a moment. It wasn't like, hey, heads up, you know. I'm trying to think of who it was. She's got the black robes. Like, you see her at one point in the whole Revenge of the Sith scene. Like, she's just down there on the beach while Yoda's up there in the headquarters, you know, with Chewbacca, who never ever mentions that he knows Yoda in the entire rest of the series.
Oh, Luminara?
Yes, Luminara and Dooley. That's
Yeah.
who it was. Yeah.
Isn't she the one that they captured later and
Maybe.
use her as a... it was in Rebels. They capture her, or they capture and kill her, and they use her like as like a...
They used her body as a trap to lure another Jedi.
Okay.
Well, and then you have the Inquisitorium with just all the dead Jedis. They even had the old guy from Coruscant that was like it was again in the Clone Wars, who was just like a, you know, I know the underground, I know the criminal element down here. Like, I study it in the, you know, not good for anything else, just, you know, walking, you know, exposition on the Coruscant underworld.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars got better as it went along.
No, Clone Wars was great. There was there were some scenes with Obi-Wan. You're just kind of like,
Yeah. Any others, Owen?
Not really.
You're not going to talk about the True Sepultura?
I haven't finished that book.
I go for the True Sepultura.
I think the problem is, again, you'd have to make it like an animated movie or a computer generated or one of those, because...
Yeah. So... Alright, so you good?
Yeah.
Use them
All
on.
Well, no, I'm saying the only other book I finished is Maul Lockdown, about where Maul goes to prison.
Yeah. Maul, Life on the Streets.
And what talks with the space death cult to get a nuke.
Yeah. Something like that.
I don't know. It's so like a side story, but also it's, if you put in live action, it'd be stupidly violent.
If I were going to adapt a Maul story, it'd be Shadowhunter. Not that one.
Yeah.
Or the story just before Shadowhunter, because Shadowhunter is actually a sequel to a comic book storyline. Because in the comic book storyline, which I can't think of what it's called, it's literally like Darth Maul 1 through 4 or something. There's a guy within the Trade Federation that knows that Palpatine is Sidious, other than Newt Gunray. And he's like, gonna go tell. And so Sidious is like, all right, Maul, you know what to do, buddy. Sends him like a bullet after him. And he ends up trying to hide in the Black Sun criminal organization. And Maul's like, so, how many of them do you want me to leave alive? And Sidious is like, they could be a problem down the road. Kill most of them. And so he just starts wiping them out to get to this other guy. And the final guy, who's the Vigo, has a Night Sister as his bodyguard. And she's all like, oh, another dark side user. He's like, no, you have no idea what I am. He's like, I'm a Sith. You're a pretender. And just like blows right through her. And she's like, you're right. He goes, I know, you're dead. And just like, she was nothing to him. And then he takes out the Vigo. And then the story picks up right after that. He's still chasing the guy on Coruscant in the underground. And they send Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon to figure out what the hell's going on. Because this like trail of carnage is developed. And by the end of it, the guy I think he dies and tells someone else. And so now Maul's after the other person. And the guy has a droid, and he like leaves the droid with somebody. Like, you got to make sure this droid gets to these people. And he's like, yeah, sure. And like once he leaves, like, mind wipe the droid. Like, I don't like the guy that much. So the guy just like totally screws him. And then he goes and like, he's like, he gets hurt somehow. And then he like finds Senator Palpatine and tells him, and Senator Palpatine's like, oh yeah, we'll get this all sorted out. You just stay here. And the next time the door opens, it's Maul, and he just kills him. And it's like, well, that's that. And then Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon have to go deal with that disturbance on Naboo, and that's where the book ends. So that I could see if you want a more backstory on Maul. But I think the better thing for backstory on Maul would be the Plagueis novel. You know, I would do The Rise of Darth Vader, because that is an excellent viewing of Vader just after Revenge of the Sith, where he's still coming into his own, like trying to like deal with the whole mechanical body thing. And he tries to fight some Jedi and gets his ass handed to him. And he's like sitting there in the hyperbaric chambers. He's got the helmet off, and he's like complaining to Sidious. You know, he's like, you know, you could have made my body out of Durasteel like the Star Destroyers, and you know, this, that, and the other. And Sidious is finally just like, are you done? He's like, what's your problem? Like, we won. He's like, we control the galaxy. He's like, why are you just a whiny bitch? And, you know, Anakin's like, yeah, we control the galaxy. And look at us. We're hideous. And Sidious is like, wasn't it your master Yoda who said, don't worry about this crude matter, luminous beings are we? He's just throwing it back in his face. And then finally gets to the Anakin like, you're the reason Padme's dead. And, you know, you see this like internal thoughts like, oh, I knew this was coming. And he's like, whoa there, buddy. Like, you're the one that choked her to death, not me. He's like, yeah, but like you could have done something. He's like, what the hell did you expect me to do? And he's like, so what am I going to do now? Like, that was the whole reason I did all this. And Sidious kind of realizes that like he has to like get him back on the program here. And so ultimately what he does is like get him pissed off at him so that now his goal in life is to overthrow him. And, you know, Sidious is like, he's like 80% of what he was, close enough. And by the end of it, he tracks the Jedi he was tracking at the beginning to Alderaan. And, like, Bail Organa's, like, freaking out because he's like, oh, surely to God, he'll notice it's his daughter here. And, you know, but he's going around the palace. And he's like, oh, that's a nice place you have here, Bail. Like, didn't you and your wife just have a child of some sort? Like, and Bail's like, oh, shit. You know, and then it comes to the fight with the Jedi. And Sidious had been like, do you even know why we use the lightsabers? Like, we don't need them. We do it to mock the Jedi. Like, we have force powers, dude. Like, I can shoot lightning. This is just to mock the Jedi. So it comes to the fight with the Jedi, and they're like, oh, we outran him. We made it through the door. And Vader just, like, fires up his lightsaber and, like, throws, like, the 100-yard pass with it and takes one of them out. And they're like, oh, shit. Like, this guy is basically the Terminator. Like, we have to go. But yeah, there's a bunch of other scenes, like he goes to solve the Kashyyyk problem. He gets there and he's just like, enslave them to build the Death Star, burn the forest, I'm out. And they're just like, what? He's like, you heard me. Did you question any of that? Like the transition from Anakin to Vader, you see the steps for it in the novel, and it's really good. If it wouldn't fly in the face of canon, I'd say the Death Star novel, but it totally doesn't jive with the Disney canon at this point, so I wouldn't do it.
Well, yeah, so that's the problem with the Dark Forces as well, as it's also about getting the Death Star plans.
Yeah. Shatterpoint was a good one. I'd do Outbound Flight, because that helps set up Thrawn for other things, and I think it could still be done in canon. And the only people that are in the other shows is literally just Palpatine, Anakin, and Obi-Wan in like the first 20 pages or so. And then it's a whole bunch of characters that we've never seen before, and Thrawn. And a whole bunch of characters we'll never see again in Thrawn, because almost all of them die. Except for Jerus. We might see him again if they actually go with the whole cloning thing, because that's where you see Thrawn kill him for the first time. And George Cardis also survives into the other stuff. But yeah, I would do that, especially if you're going to actually try to pull from the Thrawn trilogy for other stuff, which I think that's the other thing. You'd have to rework some things, but I think the Thrawn trilogy could exist right after Ahsoka Season 1. Like, Luke's there, we've got Thrawn back in the main galaxy, It's after the Emperor's fall. The New Republic's on shaky ground. Like all the pieces are there. You've just got to finagle the other things that are there now too into it. And I would try to use that point to bring in what's her name, Mara Jade, and then have it so that she leaves towards the end or at the end or whenever, and Luke doesn't know that she's pregnant. Maybe she doesn't know she's pregnant. And then back around after the sequel trilogy, the kid shows up, I guess, to Rey to teach them,
How to actually use the Force.
yes, had to actually be a Skywalker. And yeah, it's like those are the parts I think you could bring over and still make work.
I know one part of the EU I would say can stay right where it's at and never come see the light of day, and that would be the Sun Crusher.
Sun Crusher's awesome, Jim. We've gone bigger. Let's go smaller with the super weapons.
Yeah,
and more powerful.
And can be put into a crushing atmosphere, no problem. They can be stuck in the middle of wherever, and it's fine. It's almost indestructible. It's almost
It got destroyed by the black hole in the end.
yeah. Well, it should have got destroyed when it was stuck into a planet's or into the gas giant.
No, it can survive the supernova. It could survive that.
It's a stupid weapon.
Come on, Jim. A starfighter-sized weapon with quantum armor that can survive a direct hit from a low-powered Death Star and fire torpedoes that can cause the sun to go nova with a timer in case you don't want it to happen right now. You want it to happen later. And it can survive that. And like one dude can pilot the whole thing. And it can survive being chucked into the gas giant of Yavin and then pulled back out via the Force.
Is that what happened to the son of Romulus?
Yeah, probably.
By the way, what was the plan? Supposedly that sun went supernova,
Yeah.
and they were going to throw the red matter into it too.
Was to stop it from going nova or like
No.
short-circuited or something.
But from what I gathered, it was going to pull the whole thing in,
Yeah, maybe.
and then they're not going to have a sun.
Well, sure. I mean, obviously the plan wasn't perfect.
Like, well, we saved the planet, but now it's turned into a chunk of ice, and now we're going to call it Hoth. We're going to put some tauntauns on it, and
Well, I think. Okay, assuming.
and now when we've jumped into Star Trek all of a sudden. So
But like, assuming it would have destroyed the sun. Because that gives them a little bit more time to get people off the planet, like a couple days maybe, if that. Right?
maybe, unless they just I don't know. I don't know the science behind how fast the Earth would, like, say, like, if our sun disappeared, how fast would the Earth freeze? I would assume it'd be pretty damn quick.
Well, I would think it would take a couple days.
Because, I mean, I know there's the internal heat of the planet itself.
Yeah.
And, but I think it would instantly be like Arctic, frigid, everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be instant, but it'd probably be quicker than I think it would be. But the point is, the destruction is instantaneous once the sun explodes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's you've got, what, like 8 minutes if you're lucky? But
anyways, so
no, it was a terrible plan. But also, like, the part I had a problem with was they're like, supernova that threatened the galaxy. Like, how? Remember that part? Like, also that, like, that's not what happened when it exploded. Like, only Romulus got screwed because they're in Picard. They were never like, oh yeah, and then like 20 other planets got blown up too. They're like, no, it's just kind of Romulus, and Spock failed, and Picard like failed the what the hell are they called? Not migrants, refugees.
yeah.
And yeah,
Well, yeah, that's when they had the android uprising.
yes,
Building all the ships to get them off the planet.
yeah.
Not to build the robots to get them off. Jeez.
No, Jim, they didn't do that. That's the holodecks for.
Well,
At least according to Barclay, as
Yeah,
near as
I
I
was
can
gonna
tell. Or if you're in Dr. Crusher, you know, the ghost that slept with your grandma and everyone else in your family line.
that is a story.
That's an actual episode. I didn't make that one up.
Star Trek, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, the original series, Picard or Kirk's sleeping with everything that walks. Like,
So why not work things that hover because they're ghosts? Oh, gosh. Okay. So anything else on the EU side of things?
I don't think so. I mean, I agree with you on TIE Fighter also, just to be clear. But yeah, I mean, that's and KOTOR.
And that has some stuff that I don't know if it's EU or not that I think would be good. And that would be maybe like the General Grievous' story. Like where he actually was the
Kalish.
Kalish, yes.
Yeah. It was a car bomb, I believe, intentionally by Dooku to make him so he could make him into a cyborg and be like, hey, man, I saved you. You want to become the leader of our army?
Where I've seen a thing where people were questioning, how does Grievous have a super high midichlorian count?
Pumped him full of Sifo Dyas's blood. Yeah, I saw that.
So it'd be an interesting story, but I think that'd still be considered in canon, so.
Parts of it might be. I don't know. That's kind of the problem with some of the stuff that, like, I hate to say this, but like you got Timothy Zahn, who still writes for them. Like, every chance he gets, he's like, I mentioned this in one of my old books. I'm going to mention it in the new one, too. So now it's canon. Haha. Suck it, Disney. You know? Like, or we get things like the Interdictor Cruisers. Well, they were in other shows, like, before Disney bought it, so they are canon. They just don't work the same anymore. So they had to come up with, I don't even remember how the hell they work now. Because originally they caused the gravity shadow, which pulled things out of hyperspace. Which is why the Holdo maneuver doesn't work. Not the Holdo, was it the Holdo maneuver? Yeah. No? It was the Star Killer base. Why that shouldn't have worked. Because you're too close to the planet. Like, it should have ripped you out of hyperspace well before you ever get there. And, you know, like, since the Interdictor Cruisers were still canon, you know, it's like, okay, so now how do they work? And I don't know if they have an answer to that anymore. But yeah. Yeah.
What's the other option? You know, you're joking about being able to read the board.
Should they bring back the extended universe?
Should they, since the EU, like, since I assume the books are probably still selling, should they consider to keep writing for that version of events? You know, basically making new books for the EU, using the old EU.
Well, and I think there's probability of that or possibility for that to happen because of the show Rebels with its time travel shenanigans that it's done. Because unless they were doing a Mobius strip like the Avengers did, they're creating all sorts of branches on the timelines.
Yeah, although I do hear, like, it's not a complaint I share, but I do hear a lot of people really don't like the concept of the multiverse. Because to them, it means nothing matters. Because it's going to be like Marvel. It's going to be like, oh, well, I mean, this person's dead. But they're not dead over on that other Earth. Let's go get this essentially identical version. And then the stakes don't matter at all anymore. Like, I get the argument. I don't agree with it, but I get the argument. You need to keep it like Star Trek, where there's one alternate universe. Like, we know there's others, but there's only one they can kind of get to sometimes.
Which is the Mirror of Us.
The Mirrorverse, yeah. And so, like, that's why it worked in Star Trek, because, like, the implication, obviously, if the Mirrorverse exists, then others have to exist too. But they're separate. And that's the way the multiverse can work, is if we know they exist, they just can't cross over. You know, that's the flaw in the whole thing, is that they can cross over.
Well, and Mirrorverse is a topic we should get on, because every time I watch anything about the Mirrorverse, I'm like, how does anything work there? How do they function at all when it's like all about betrayal and stabbing people in the back and being the biggest asshole you can possibly be?
That's what I meant earlier on as far as like the Empire. Like, it can't work that way because it would just collapse. And the Sith know that. That's why they have the rule of two. Like, it would also apply to the Empire. Like, they think that, oh, they don't have the Force, so they won't do that. Like, the hell are you kidding? Of course they do that.
Because everybody would be so ambitious, they would just stab whoever is ahead of them and be like, well, I guess I'm in charge now, because just killed my boss, and then my underling just killed me, and so he's now the boss.
And now it's down to just, like, Scotty in engineering is like the only guy left on the ship. Yeah, no, the Terran Empire it's ridiculous. It could not function in any way, shape, or form, so...
But I don't know. Like, I would be completely fine if they just wiped the sequel trilogy somehow, and just that Ezra somehow, you know, fucked up everything in the way that actually made everything better, because we wipe out all that.
Well,
They start from scratch.
I mean, I am not a fan of time travel existing in Star Wars at all. Like, it opens the door to fuckery that I don't like.
I mean, I'm fine with like, oh, you can see into the past, you can see into the future, but
Yeah, that's different. Because like again with Ahsoka, I like the series and everything, but like she died fighting Vader. Like that was her fate. And then like all of a sudden Dave Filoni's like, yeah, but I can't let my Mary Sue character die. So, you know. I'm not a huge fan of Ahsoka as a character after a certain point. But like, I mean, obviously she went through some things too. I shouldn't call her Mary Sue. But like, she's clearly she's Filoni's favorite. And he tries to like, oh, new Star Wars project. Is that after the Clone Wars by any chance? Could Ahsoka have reasonably been there? No? Well, too bad. She's going to be. And it's like, God damn it, Filoni. Like, there's other parts of this show. Like, make some other character you like.
Ahsoka had a daughter named Ahsoka.
Wow. That's like these people I see talking about like their like the Dungeons and Dragons characters. Like they get killed and it's like, it's my twin brother who's exactly the same as me shows back up. It's Bab instead of Bob. And it's like, what? Did you ever see Beer Fest?
If I had, it's been a...
That actually happens in the movie. Landfill is his character's name. He dies, and then his twin brother shows up at the funeral and is like, so he's kept me abreast of what you guys have been doing. Like, I want to join the team. And go ahead and just call me Landfill also. And he was like more successful and everything. And later on, he made some kind of joke on one of the others. Like, he's like, okay, college boy. And he was different from his brother. And he's like, but didn't you go to college? Like, shut up. But yeah, I mean, it was played for a joke there, obviously. But, you know.
Yep.
But yeah. That one, what do you think? Should they bring back the old EU? Or should they continue to expand it?
I don't know. I'm not educated enough to make...
That's fair.
Well, that's how I am. Like I say, I don't read so good. But you know, I mean, I think what we had talked about bringing stuff to new canon, I think kind of falls into stuff that, you know, that should be brought, some stuff that probably shouldn't be brought, you know, where we're at with that. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in the Star Wars world that we should talk about. I know, is there a trailer out for the...
There's not a trailer for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, but there's some scenes and some clips and stuff.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's probably going to be a movie that not a lot of people are going to be trying to, like, talk about Revenge of the Sith. One of the things I know that happened there was that it got leaked online like a week or so before. Now, it wasn't a finished state of the movie, but it was, enough to be able to get the entire plot of the movie.
Oh, if you wanted the whole plot of the movie, you just had to play the video game that came out like a month before.
Yeah, or, the plot of the movie, pretty much you might as well be like trying to understand the plot of Titanic. You're like, well, I know at the end the ship's going to sink. And at the end of the movie that Vader's going to be,
That's why Tarantino's movies aren't like that. Like Inglourious Bastards, have you seen that?
No.
Well, they kill the German high command at the end of the movie. Clearly not how historical events played out. I was kind of surprised. The same way with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because part of like the kind of the background plot that's playing out is Manson and his cult, and there's Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate. Well, they don't kill them at the end of the movie. Instead, Brad Pitt and spoiler alert, Brad Pitt and DiCaprio kill the cultists at the end, rather violently too. Like a couple of them get charbroiled with a flamethrower. That DiCaprio had because he filmed some movie where he's fighting the Nazis and like takes a bunch of guys out with the flamethrower and he kept the flamethrower.
Or nowadays you just order it off Amazon.
Yeah.
Put an affiliate link down below for the flamethrower.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do that one, Jim. I mean, I know that's not technically a weapon, and they're not licensed as near as I can tell. Like, a lot of people really freaked out when they found that out. They're like, you don't need any kind of paperwork. You just buy a flamethrower. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to link to that, though. Sorry, folks. You can search for it yourself. Probably going to miss some sales here.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say something like, it'd be nice if we'd ever get a KOTOR 3, but I don't know where they would go because the MMO takes off after that. It'd be nice if we got a KOTOR 2 with an ending. Can't emphasize that enough. Maybe update TIE Fighter to modern graphics and re-release it. That'd be cool. Actually, a lot of the Star Wars games, just if you could update the graphics or just re-release them so we could actually play them. I think you can get TIE Fighter on goodoldgames.com, though. So
I don't think TIE Fighter would be that hard of a haul. Maybe it would be, but...
Well, with KOTOR 2, mods are pathway...
to abilities many consider unnatural.
Something like that.
Yeah. Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a console.
That's good. I wasn't expecting that.
Though, not so much a mod, Owen, as I say, I've already seen people going back to the Oblivion character creator and just making the most hideous things imaginable. Where people are like, and then there was one was like, we don't like you, you beautiful folks around here, and it's like pig creature that they made in Oblivion.
Well, how about this? What should Shaak Ti's canon death actually be? Died aboard the Supremacy or died on Felucia? I think there's a third one in there somewhere, too.
I think there's... Okay, she was killed by Grievous upon the Invisible Hand.
Yeah.
There was her...
What did I say?
You said the Supremacy, which is from the sequel trilogy.
The Invisible Hand.
Shaak Ti being killed by Anakin during the March on the Temple, or her being killed by Starkiller on Felucia.
Yeah.
Well, the Anakin one would have been the better one, but she was just in there meditating. He's like...
Well, I tell you what we should have seen at the temple is him killing Yocasta Nu, like he did in the Revenge of the Sith video game.
Well, no, yeah, you think Shaak Ti would have kind of heard all the screaming that's going on.
No, she's like that guy in The Acolyte who's been meditating for like 20 years over something that wasn't even his fault, and then comes out of his meditation and kills himself. Swear to God, that happened in The Acolyte.
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like Shaak Ti's canon death should be like she was killed by like an Inquisitor on Felucia.
Yeah, there we go. Option D.
Instead of like Starkiller, because I don't know. I feel like Starkiller kind of might break Star Wars canon.
Now the question is, they should make a show about Mace Windu surviving his fly out the window.
He's talked about that with Bryce Dallas Howard, I think.
Missing a hand, all scarred up from the lightning.
I'm going to need an explanation of how he survived the fall.
He used the Force healing to help.
I mean, it sounded like he was screaming and dying to me, but...
Well, he was still screaming.
Yeah, but he's not a Sith. Like, if he was a Sith, I'd believe it. Because they can just become so pissed off they don't die.
Except for that one guy in KOTOR who you just convinced that he,
Convince him to calm down, then he just dies. Darth Sion. Yeah.
I don't know. He as he was falling down,
It's a speeder.
He grabbed onto a speeder, but like used it to slow himself down. And
well, Anakin was somehow able to catch a speeder while falling.
Yeah, but he was doing it on purpose.
Mace Windu, he's got the shatter point thing. He could probably figure out how to make that work.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying I'm against the idea. Like, I'm just going to need that explanation. It can't just be somehow he survived.
He tuck and rolled at the very end.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah.
Hey, if Palpatine can do it, Mace Windu can do it. Mace Windu was his biggest threat at the...
Yeah, I've heard Qui-Gon would have potentially been a big threat to him, though.
I don't get that.
It's because he doesn't believe... Like, Palpatine was winning because he understood the rules of the game for the Jedi. Qui-Gon was like, rules? Ha! It's all about the living force. The here and the now.
That's why I'm going to bet on this child in this death race.
Well,
yeah.
And that's why the Great Jedi were probably the best out of all of them, because... they understood that there doesn't have to be an ultimatum. Like, you don't have to be totally good or totally evil. You can just be there in the middle and just act like a normal person and you're fine.
Yeah, that actually came up in the EU, like, what the hell was her name? she had been with Yuuzhan Vong forever. She was a Clone Wars era Jedi, but they didn't realize that she had fallen to the dark side a long time ago. And so she tried to convince the Jedi of that. It was like, you can use dark side powers, just, don't give in to the dark side. Easy peasy. And so the Jedi Order started doing stuff like that. And finally Luke was like, no, this is clearly not working, guys. And somewhere around there is where old Jason Solo is like, Sith Lord it is.
Well, and I don't know, and maybe it's the corruption, but I think even then, some of the Force powers shouldn't be negative or not. But I mean, when you're destroying the living Force in some method, yeah, that should probably be considered dark side. So I could see Force lightning and shit, but Force push, yeah, you may inherently kill somebody, but...
Yeah, but the action itself isn't inherently evil.
It's not, yeah.
No.
I don't think Force lightning should be inherently evil. Whatever.
It is, because the first example we see of it is a Sith Lord using it, and no one else even, there's no preamble. It's just out of nowhere. The Emperor's like, oh yeah? And you're just like, oh, okay. So that's a thing, huh?
Oh, maybe they're using it to jumpstart a car.
Stand back, boys.
Try it now.
Have to occasionally jumpstart later. Yeah, no. I don't know. The only other thing I would say is, I know we're not going to get a lot of Lego sets out of Andor, but we better get the TIE Avenger, damn it. It's taken 10 years to get a new TIE Bomber and a TIE Interceptor, and the TIE Interceptor is only in a set with another fighter and cost $100, which was stupid beyond belief.
And how the TIE Avenger wouldn't even take that much work. Just take the TIE Advance, the TIE Avenger's...
It's the Interceptor, but with also the backward spikes.
Okay.
And missiles. Now, in Andor, the cockpit was a lot bigger. There's literally room for, people to stand in the back of the cockpit while he's flying it. About 6 people.
Okay.
So, it's a little different than the canon version, but it's really close. And it clearly has the hyperdrive and shields and everything else like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It was in the TIE Fighter, it's called the TIE Advanced.
Okay.
But it's later on they called it the TIE Avenger. So...
Okay. So it is Darth Vader's TIE Fighter, roughly, but a little bit bigger.
Yeah, his is the prototype.
Yeah.
And then they changed it to the pointed wings like the Interceptor, and yeah.
Okay. So I wasn't off on that. I was a little bit, but not.
Because we have a Lego set of the Defender. It's 15 years old, but we've got one. So the TIE Avenger would be nice. Also, we saw the ones that are in Rebels that have the curved wings, but not the points. They're kind of like Vader's, but it's compacted if you're looking at it from the side.
Yeah.
It's a side view. They're kind of like this, but also from the front, if that makes any sense.
And that's where the ones they clamshell.
I think they can, yeah. But as he's escaping in the Avenger, that's what they launched to go after him with. So seeing both those would be nice. In general, it'd be nice if we got that one from Solo that we've only ever seen one of. They had the gun pod. I don't even know what the hell they call that one.
We just need a TIE Fighter mega pack of all the different TIE Fighter models.
Yeah, there's one weird one where it's where the one, it's just the one wing in the middle, and it's the pod's on one side and there's a gun pod on the other side.
Yeah. There's the ones where the wings go out instead of in, and I can't remember what that one's called.
What's the one where it's got 3 wings?
The Defender has 3 wings.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Defender.
They're like that. They arc out. So collectively it's like that with the pod in the middle. The Phantom, I know you don't like it, but it'd be nice to get a Lego set of it.
Missile gunboat. The assault gunboat.
Yeah, the 2 gunboats would be good.
TIE Fighter, again.
A new B-Wing would be nice. I think it's been 10 years since we had one of those. We had an E-Wing. I don't know if we've ever gotten a Z95 Headhunter as a Lego set. I don't know off the top of my head if we did or not. I think we did, but it's been a while.
When was the last time we got a Y-Wing?
It's been a while. And the Y-Wing has 2 options. You can make the Rebellion version or the Clone Wars version that still has all the armor on it. I think we only have one of that one. Because I think the last Y-Wing we got might have been for Rogue One. Or somewhere around in there. Yeah. We're getting a new U-Wing.
How about the Hammerhead Corvette?
At the very least, a MIDI scale would be nice. That's another thing. I wish the MIDI scale sets were actually in scale with each other. Like, because they're not, like, not even close. Because, like, the Super Star Destroyer is like this. Like, the Tantive 4 is like this. Like the Super Star Destroyer comes with a Star Destroyer in scale. It's like this big.
Yeah.
So the problem would be that, like, you'd basically have to use the Super Star Destroyer set that's like this long. But yeah, we're supposed to be getting a $1,000 Death Star set this year that has, like, I think it's got like 30 figures with it or something, and it's some ungodly number of pieces, and I don't know. Haven't seen the pictures of it yet. I assume with that piece count, it's the Death Star 2, because you'd need that for all the greebling, as they call it, and then it's like as big as this table.
And then you take sections off, and you have like the.
You replace them to make the first Death Star.
Well, not even that, but like say like you would pull like maybe because you'd have like that.
Open
section.
it up for the figures and stuff.
Yeah, for the play feature.
Yeah. I'm going to buy a $1,000 Lego set for a kid to play with it. I don't think so.
Well, hell, even some of the Star Destroyer ones actually still.
I was going to say I'm not going to play with it if I had spent $1,000 on it.
Off the damn goes. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Although, Owen, if you have $650 laying around and you want the what are the Star Destroyer at the end of the Clone Wars era?
The Venator?
The Venators. They're going to be quadruple points for the May the 4th sale. That'd be like spending $2,600. Like, that's a lot of points. Just saying.
The Venator.
Although you can no longer sell the Captain Rex figure for an absorbent amount of money, because they released him in a $13 set and really pissed off some people. But, you know, those people deserved it.
We need a Venator.
Yeah, well, they've made a MIDI scale of the Acclamator that's out now. It looks pretty good. But again, it's not in scale with any of the other MIDI scale stuff. They didn't make MIDI scale sets of, like, some of the ground stuff, like the Scarif base. That could be cool.
We need like...
Or the shield generator, you know.
We need, like, the invisible hand.
There is a MIDI scale version of that. It's a Target exclusive. That's why you don't see it anyplace else. Or it's invisible, one of the two.
Hey, you know, speaking of which, you know the Acclamator has the fastest hyperdrive out of any of the like the Clone War era like Republic ships, like the capital ships. It's got a class 1.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's got a class 1.
I know I've seen a lot of people make the case that the Venator's the better capital ship than the Imperial class Star Destroyer.
Yeah, if they would have scaled it up, I mean, it's a freaking Hainer ship with actual weaponry.
Yeah, that's what they're getting at. It's like, well, it's got like 200 fighters on board. It's like, well, that's a lot, you know.
And the hangar's not exposed.
Yeah.
Well, there's two ways of launching out of the Hainer too. That you can have the more secure way where you only open up like either the sides or whatever for ships to fly out, or if you can open up the front to launch them all out.
Yeah. But I think the counter argument is that, like, the point of the Imperial ships isn't to fight, it's to dominate planets. That's why they're just laden with turbo lasers instead of all the fighters, because the goal is, like, if they get too uppity, to stay in orbit and bomb the planet.
Yeah, that's why you get all these awesome pictures of just Star Destroyers bombarding the atmosphere. Even down to the Victory class was still primary focus.
But yeah, because there's one guy's channel I've seen where he, like, makes his arguments about, like, well, if the Empire would have done this, if the Empire would have done that. And the big problem is, like, I don't want to belittle the guy's channel or anything. He puts some thought into it. Although half of it seems to be, like, arguing against current U.S. military doctrine. And it's just like, unfortunately, logical arguments don't work. The Empire didn't lose for any logical reason. Like, the rebellion that you see at Return of the Jedi, that's basically it. The Empire has 25,000 Star Destroyers. Like, the rebellion had like 30 ships left. In any sane, logical setting, the rebellion is a fly on the wall waiting to be smashed. Because, I mean, think it through. How do the rebels even get capital ships? They can't have shipyards anywhere. Because a shipyard's a fixed point. The Empire just rolls in there with 50 Star Destroyers and smashes it.
Yeah, it always made me wonder why Mon Cala wasn't just wiped off the...
Exactly.
Well, and I guess supposedly they tried to, but then, you know, it's like, well, you don't really...
But what? What's the logical counter argument to that? What did Mon Cal do that was so effective? That the Empire wasn't just like, okay, send twice as many Star Destroyers now.
Well, the weird, and I don't know if it's canon, but like the all their ships were like the buildings on the planet, and they just launched them into the atmosphere.
Okay.
But yeah, but no, like, again, you have a finite amount of those ships. You have no way of building more of those ships.
Right. I mean, a lot of their ships they got because they stole them, you know, but you can only steal so many because, like, the Corellian corvettes, the Nebula B frigates, I mean, those were all just stolen ships.
Well, I always wondered with the Nebulon B, why the hell did they strip off all the armor? I get that it made it easier to change the pods out and change, like, the sensor arrangements, but now you've made a ship that had fairly decent armoring to one of the most exposed ships ever.
Yeah.
You ever seen what the armored version looks like?
No, but I remember in TIE Fighter there was a Nebula B2 or Advanced or something, and instead of like the long, like the front part, it was the two sideways fins, and it looked like it was better armored. But that one always seemed to be like someone was like, hey, this is a cool ship design, and not like a, you know, guys, there's a massive flaw in this ship. Like if you hit right here, like you're going to break the ship in half.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I always like the scene in Return of the Jedi when the medical frigate's like going up, you know, gun to gun with the Star Destroyer, and it's like, well, that's going to end well.
I always wondered, I think it's Wedge. Like he's being pursued by the two interceptors and they fly up and explode in there.
Yeah.
And he says they're heading to the medical, like is he literally saying that's where they're going? Or is it like some kind of like dark humor joke? Like, oh, those guys are done for, you know? Like they're going to the hospital, you know, like is it meant to be the joke or is it meant to just be like, he's just saying what's happening?
I think he's just saying what's happening. I don't...
You know what I'm saying? Like I've always wondered about that. Also, do you know one of the A-Wing pilots is actually a woman? Like they dubbed a man's voice over it. It's the one that's like flying along, like has the two interceptors back behind him. It's just like it's nothing. Like I'm fine. I think that's the same one that smashes into the Super Star Destroyer bridge. That's a woman. Yeah, I saw that one day, and there was just like, well, I mean, I can kind of see it looking at the still frame, but they're like, yeah, they just dubbed a man's voice over the lines, and I was like,
of course,
okay,
because a woman pilot,
yeah, but it was the rebellion, like
the woman pilot ends up crashing into the Star
pretty much the rebellion should have been like,
oh, and you're not trying to imply that she couldn't drive, I hope.
No, I never say that.
Okay, just so we're clear on that.
But no, I mean they pretty much. I'm surprised there weren't kids behind, you know, some of the.
There were in the defense of Naboo.
I wonder if we'll see that in the next batch of Andor episodes.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that. Some child soldiers on one side or the other.
Well,
I mean, you know, at some point the Empire's like, "Can you fly?" Or the Rebellion's like, "Can you fly a ship?" They're like, well, yes. And they're like, all right, get in that X-Wing.
Well, all I'm going to say is that the Empire doesn't need really any more manpower. They have, what, millions?
Oh, I mean, depending on how many planets we're talking about, the Empire should literally have like tens of billions of soldiers. Like, it should have just that's again like the whole, like, the Rebellion literally shouldn't be able to win. Because, I mean, the Rebellion could keep up like low-level guerrilla fighting from now till the end of time. They could easily do that. But in any actual victory, no.
That's why the Battle of Endor was important, because they're like, you have to take the head out.
Well, sure, but the only problem with that though is like, I don't see the Empire falling into infighting to the extent that it did. I think very early on, like 2 or 3 people are going to emerge as the leader. Probably Izard, because she controls Coruscant. Warlord Zinj, because he was, and you know, Thrawn eventually shows back up. I know it's a few years later, but still, like, you don't go from controlling 2/3 of the galaxy to like, okay, so we lost the number 1 and the number 2 guy, but we still have, you know, the Imperial fleet and the Imperial army.
Well,
like how do the rebels even make inroads there? You know what I mean? Like,
well,
even if they're infighting, like, okay, we're going to go where the 2 fleets are fighting and get destroyed. You know, like, it does to me it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, technically, even at the end of Return of the Jedi, I mean, yeah, I get like everybody was trying to flee from the exploding Death Star, but
Where's the rest of the Imperial fleet?
why didn't the Imperial fleet just go, hey, this is our chance? Like, yeah, they destroyed that, but
But all the rebels are here, time to avenge the Emperor.
yes.
Yeah. That's why they had to put lines in the Thrawn trilogy talking about it. Basically, Thrawn assumed that the Emperor was using what is essentially like the battle meditation ability, but was using it across the entire Empire. It was keeping things nominally in line. So once he died, that threw everything into chaos because the people weren't naturally gelling the way they were. But that doesn't make any sense. So.
No. No.
Thrawn's not a Force user. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Like my companion in KOTOR 1, whenever I tried to tell him that I couldn't save his son and had to kill him right in front of him. And he's like, oh, you've done all these other things. Yeah, well, Karth, you don't know about the Force, so shut up.
But no.
Stupid Karth.
No, because I mean, they should have still lost. I mean, yeah, they were engaging the Star Destroyers at point blank range just so that the Death Star wouldn't fire at them, and actually the Death Star should have still fired at them. They're like, yeah.
Well, I mean, it was still firing at him. I mean, you think the Emperor cared? I mean, hell, you've seen the deleted scene, right? Where, like,
he's gonna blow up the
once
planet.
the shield generator was down, Jar Jar was supposed to just nuke Endor, and, like, he made the order. It was going to happen.
Yeah, because supposedly you can still see in the whatever that the Death Star is facing Endor when it blows up.
Yeah, I guess there's also another scene where he tries to stop Vader from going to see the Emperor. Yeah, Vader real quickly showed him who his boss. But yeah, to your point though, it's something else you said. The Nebula B frigate be a nice ship to see in mid-scale. I think the only Lego version of that was like a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive or something. Some stupidly ridiculous, hard to find set, you know, for a ship that the Rebels clearly use a lot, at least from Empire onward, you know.
Well,
be nice.
I'd like to see, and the ship I'd like to see in any sort of movie, show, whatever, is the Victory class Star Destroyer. Because it was a very uniquely designed ship.
I thought the ones in Rogue One were supposed to be Victory class.
No,
they're Imperial 1, aren't they?
They're Imperial 1. Which is why in The Rise of Skywalker, they're all Imperial 1 style.
We're using the digital assets?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they were actually using the model that they had. Whatever, they were using the model from Rogue One in that. And
that is one thing I will give the Obi-Wan series credit for, was a clone trooper in real armor and not just digital like the Clone Wars, you know.
yeah,
Or sorry, Attack of the Clones.
yeah,
And it was a 501st trooper too, and I think he recognized Obi-Wan and just didn't say anything because he was there panhandling.
yeah. Because people blamed the clones too. The clones were not treated well after the war.
No.
So, no, they going back to the battle at Endor. The one video game that I think got it right in its scale was my gosh, I've got it over there.
It was one of the Rebel Assault games.
Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, the one where you're like, your thing just starts lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, and it's like normally in the missions it's like, you know, take out X amount of TIE fighters, and it's like, okay. Well, it's like there are so many TIE fighters. Yeah, it's like it lights up, and it's like there's no problem finding enough TIE fighters to take out before it lets you go on to the next thing. And then it's like, you know, engage the Star Destroyer at point blank range. You're like, all right.
Well, it's like in the movie where a bunch of the fighters literally just materialize out of nowhere.
Yeah, because the technology wouldn't even allow them to like bring them in.
Yeah.
Well, the camera would have to be a quarter mile down the road.
You notice that, right, Owen? Whenever the Falcon turns and the fighters all come at him, like the secondary waves literally just materialize.
Yeah.
And while Return of the Jedi is, like I said, out of the sequel trilogy, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite. Return of the Jedi is very close because of the battle at Endor, because it's just the shit your pants moment. Like, oh my gosh, like in A New Hope, you don't get that. You get like, oh, there's a couple of TIE fighters. Ooh, there's a big Death Star. It's getting ready to blow stuff up. But there, it's like, no, shit's getting real. Like,
yeah. I mean, because I agree with you that like Empire overall is the better movie, For me, though, the thing is like Return of the Jedi has the greatest scene, and that's where Vader finally decides to literally overthrow the Emperor.
Yes.
You know, that's the whole trilogy, the whole 6 movies have been building to that moment right there.
Overthrow him the railing.
Yes.
He's like
Yes, you notice the Emperor put railing in the throne room.
Yeah, he like hooped him though. He's like
He's like, won't be tripping down this. And Vader's like, we'll see.
Kobe.
Yeah, it's like the Robot Chicken episode. All the bad stuff happens to the Emperor, and like he's finally sitting there in his throne. He like turns to one of the royal guards, like, "Hey, watch this. What else could go wrong today?" And it's like 3 hours later, Vader's chucking him down the reactor shaft.
They need to make a movie about IG-88 controlling the Death Star doors and like pranking the Emperor with it.
There you go.
Like shutting doors on him.
Yeah,
Ghost in the Machine.
literally.
All right, I think we've rambled on enough there.
Yeah, probably.
So I think we need to bring this meeting to a close, and next meeting will be probably less Star Wars focused, even though we seem to always circle back to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's see what happens from now and then.
Yeah, maybe we'll hear some news.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know. That'd be some crazy foreshadowing if something actually did like dramatically happen, and they're like, "How the hell did you guys know?" And it's like, I don't know.
Force. That's how. But yeah, I think that's it. So just remember, if you like what you heard here, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. This is YouTube, assuming that's where you're hearing this. If you're hearing it elsewhere, then do whatever you do there, or come to YouTube and like, share, and subscribe. It's up to you. We appreciate all of it.
I definitely want to hear your comments. You're, are you the May the 4th? Or are you a Revenge of the 5th?
Yeah.
Let us know that. And any other comments. Definitely, if we get anything wrong, throw that down there too, because again, this is all stuff that I try to store in my brain, and I get it wrong from time to time.
Yeah. You can go ahead and tell me if any of it's wrong by new canon, but I'm just not gonna really pay attention to it. Like, I'll tell Owen about it. He might care.
The new canon.
Yeah. Like, I always get these articles like, "Oh, they finally revealed this," and I'm like, "That was in a book 20 years ago. What are you talking about?"
Yep.
It's like some new canon book, and I'm just like, "Okay, I don't care. I shouldn't have clicked on that."
Oh, I've read a new canon book. I'll have to tell you about it sometime.
I've read one, the Tarkin book, and that's because I thought it wasn't new canon. So it was good, though. I'll give him that. So there you go. There's one thing I liked about the new continuity. The Tarkin book was good. But I looked it up. Most of the stuff's from the old continuity, so oh well. But yeah, so I think that's where we bid you fine folks adieu.
And may the 4th or enforce be with you.
Oh, don't do that, Jim.
What?
Oh, haven't told you this whole time. I think the whole May the 4th and Revenge of the 5th thing is just absolute absurd, like marketing gimmicky crap.
Hey, you know what? Hey, we put it into our show.
I know, because I know it's popular, but like it's like my problem with like the Christmas tree ornaments. It's like, I get it. People like them. I've got an X-Wing on the tree, but I didn't buy it. And I think the Death Star tree topper looks cool. But at the same time, like, that has nothing to do with Christmas. Why is it on a Christmas tree? Like, why am I going to put Darth Vader on the Christmas tree? He's a genocidal maniac. Like, why am I going to put the Death Star on the tree? Like, it blew up Alderaan.
Well, you could have another tree and have Alderaan blown up on top of it.
I'm just saying, like, it has nothing to do with either the birth of Jesus or the spirit of giving. Like, depending on which way you're going with this, like, it has nothing to do with any of that. I think it's gross over-commercialisation.
And we're riding that train, so leave me alone on it.
It's a personal thing. Like I said, I think the Death Star tree topper looks cool. If you're going to put anything on there, all right, looks cool.
All right, well, then I will just leave it with may the Force be with you.
Oh, man, you don't watch our videos. That's not how I close the Star Wars videos at all.
How do you close them then?
The Force will be with you, always.
All right, well, there we go.
That you're just reiterating the same point. We just need to end the video.
No, because I have Obi-Wan's voice to do the other one.
All right.
So.
Well, you can always cut all this out.
You're right, I could. So yeah, that's it. So the Force will be with you always.